Chapter 612. And Zaheo searched for the address. But even after ringing the doorbell until it broke, there was no response. At this time, and Zaheo heard footsteps. He turned around and saw the little brat holding onto a woman wearing a face mask. The little brat obviously noticed him as well. So, she left the old woman and ran off. This time, and Zaheo did not chase after her. Instead, he directly threatened the little brat. "Hey, brat, are you going to ignore her?" The little brat turned around and said to the old woman, "Mom, you deal with her yourself." In the end, she really did ignore her. And Zaheo finally witnessed how wild the little brat was. At this time, the old woman laughed. "Sir, I'm sorry. Has my daughter caused you any trouble?" And Zaheo looked at the old woman in detail and realized she didn't seem to be wearing a face mask on purpose. Her face was covered in uneven scars. "Young man, have you seen the scars on my face?" And Zaheo nodded. "They were burned over 10 years ago." The old woman lifted her head and looked at Zaheo seriously. But a few seconds later, she suddenly became excited. You're the young man that won the Best Newcomer Director Award?" Annie watched the TV too. And Zaheo nodded his head, admitting his identity. "I'm here to ask your daughter to act." Because her father had a dream of acting, he never came back, the old woman sighed. The old woman sighed. Afterwards, she seemed to have thought of something else as she asked with a stutter, "Is the incident with the CEO of Hyrule true? A lot of people have been talking about it recently." "Of course not," and Zaheo replied. "The couple was betrayed by their own mother. They were unlucky to have a mother like that." The old woman's expression changed a little, but she did not say another word. She simply said to Zaheo, "Young man, my Xiao Xing has been wild since she was young, so I can't control her. Whether you want to ask her to act or anything else, I hope you won't hurt her." After speaking, the old woman pushed open the metal door that Zaheo had just knocked on. From the looks of it, the villa that the couple lived in wasn't bad at all. And Zaheo thought back to how the wild girl looked when she set up her stall outside. He had never seen anyone wilder and stranger than her. Little Star, in his opinion, since it was so difficult to control, it should be called a little gorilla, right? After Zaheo left, Chen Xingyan slowly returned home. Seeing that her mother had already removed her mask and was disinfecting it, Chen Xingyan immediately stepped forward to help. "Old madam, step aside. Let me do it." Mom has a favor to ask of you." "Beg me," Chen Xingyan said indifferently. "No, nothing." After keeping this secret for decades, she suddenly couldn't bring herself to reveal it. The old woman stuttered as she received the item from Chen Xingyan's hands. She then put on a new mask to cover the scars on her face. "Spit it out. Can you contact the young man during the day? Actually, I have something to tell him." "Oh, that troublemaker." As soon as Chen Xingyan thought of Zaheo, she thought back to how he chased her down the street. It was actually quite funny. That idiot was driving, yet he insisted on using his legs. "I'll give it a try. Didn't you want to be an actress in the past? This time, that young man came looking for you. Why didn't you agree?" The old woman asked as she stepped out of the bathroom. "Me? Acting? Who's going to take care of you?" This was the reason why Chen Xingyan spent more time setting up her stall than being a stunt double. For as long as she could remember, her mother had always been covered in burns. At first, she didn't understand much, so she was scared by the old woman. But she slowly got used to it. Speaking of which, her mother was burned before she was born. And the person that saved her was Chen Xingyan's father. He didn't mind that his mother was disfigured. Instead, he took good care of her until Chen Xingyan went missing when she was 6 to 7 years old. Mom doesn't need anyone to take care of her. At this time, Chen Xingyan didn't understand the old woman's intention, so she didn't take her words to heart. It wasn't until the next morning, when she was about to set up her fortune-telling stall, that she realized the old woman was nowhere to be seen. Chen Xingyan looked around and finally found a letter in the old woman's room. "Xing go act. I'm leaving. Go relax, don't worry about me. The young man that chased after you yesterday wasn't bad. I liked him as soon as I saw him because his eyes were clear. Go act with him, otherwise, you will definitely regret it. Also, I've taken all the money with me. As soon as Chen Xingyan saw this, she was furious. She immediately gave the old woman a phone call, but her phone had already been turned off. Chen Xingyan looked left and right until she arrived at the old woman's favorite place. But she discovered that her mother had indeed abandoned her this time. She's so clean. She's even picked up a penny from under the bed. The old woman had indeed left. But she didn't take the money with her to relax. Instead, she took it overseas to see if she could recover her burned appearance. Of course, she didn't do it on a whim, nor did she do it to become beautiful. She did it for Chen Xingyan and for Mo Ting. Especially after seeing Hua Wenfeng's scandal, she wondered if she had gone crazy. How could she treat Mo Ting in such a way? How could Hua Wenfeng treat her son in such a way? In the past, because Mo Ting had someone to take care of and she had a new family, she had no intention of disrupting the peace between the two families. But Hua Wenfeng had finally revealed her true colors. How could she tolerate the way she had bullied Mo Ting? He had been betrayed by his own mother. As soon as she heard these words from Enzaheo's mouth, her heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. No one knew what she had experienced during the fire. All she knew was, even though she couldn't stay by Mo Ting's side for so many years, she still paid close attention to her son. She watched as Mo Ting grew stronger step by step. Especially after Mo Ting announced his marriage and that he was about to become a father, her excitement was beyond words. She also liked Tongning. There was no particular reason why she liked her son. It was simply because this woman was sincere towards her son. No matter how scheming she was, as long as it was directed towards outsiders, she didn't think it was overboard. Although she didn't know why her mother had left, Chen Xingyan suddenly decided that she would accept Enzaheo's role. However, by this time, Enzaheo had already received word from Director Chen Feng that a suitable candidate had already been found for Chen Xingyan's role. So, Enzaheo no longer needed to wait for her every day. Sometimes things were just so coincidental. But Enzaheo's paths should have never crossed again. But as he passed by the film studio, he still took note of the bone-setting stall. Chapter 613. The stall was no longer there. Enzaheo did not see Chen Xingyan either. Forget it. Enzaheo couldn't help but laugh. She was such an interesting child. Since she didn't deserve to be tied down, there was no need to force her. Since she didn't like being an actress, there was no need to force her. Father Mo returned just in time. While the entire world was discussing the Mo family scandal, as soon as Father Mo stepped out of the airport, he saw all the major entertainment news. They were all reporting on Hua Wenfeng's scandal regarding Mo Ting, Hai Rui, the Tang family, and Tongning. Scandals. After boarding his car, Mo Ting immediately gave his father a phone call. What's going on in the news? Mom exposed it, Mo Ting replied coldly. I just want to know why Wenfeng exposed it. Did you guys offend her? Father Mo questioned Mo Ting like he was worried about his wife. The only reason he did not take over Hai Rui was because he was worried about being together with Hua Wenfeng. So, he decided to focus on biological research with her. Of course, when it came to protecting her, Father Mo's protection of Hua Wenfeng was shocking. On the other side of the phone, Mo Ting did not respond. After quite some time, he finally said calmly, Mom was unhappy with my wife. To vent her anger, she released fake information to the media. I don't believe you. I didn't ask you to believe me, but this is the truth. Mo Ting's voice once again turned cold. This made Father Mo realize that Mo Ting was no longer the Mo Ting that hid in fear. He was now the ruler of an area and the king of the entertainment industry. In terms of presence, he was no less imposing than his father. Fine. Even if it's true, as a son, can't you be a little more forgiving? Forgiving what? Mo Ting asked. You take good care of your wife, and I take good care of my wife. This is human nature. Mo Ting. If there's nothing else, Father, I'm going to hang up, Mo Ting said straightforwardly. He no longer had any desire to continue the conversation with Father Mo as a husband. You fulfilled your responsibilities. But What about as a father? That. Ting did not wait for Father Mo's response as he hung up the phone and placed it to the side. It was like he had just picked up a phone call from an insignificant person. What was once thought to be a harmonious family was actually just a balance of power, and no conflicts had occurred. But now, Tongning had appeared out of nowhere and completely disobeyed the rules of the family. She had angered Hua Wenfeng. According to Ms. Hua, in private, Tongning is extremely arrogant and doesn't put anyone in her eyes. On multiple occasions, she has even used President Mo's position to gain benefits for herself. Most shockingly, it is said that Tongning used to have a rotten lifestyle, so the child in her stomach may be at risk of becoming disabled. This is perhaps the most serious incident that has happened since Tongning announced her comeback. This is because the person that exposed her was her mother-in-law, the mother of Hai Rui's President Mo. From this, it can be seen how bad their relationship is in private. Bullshit. Long Jia was worried that Tongning would be in a bad mood, so she stayed at Hyatt Regency to keep her company. I never thought Boss would have such a brainless mother. Long Jia. Is it wrong to tell the truth? Long Jia asked angrily. I really don't understand that woman's train of thought. Even if she can't accept you, she wouldn't go so far as to say something like this. Does she not care about her own dignity? Seeing Long Jia's righteous anger, Tongning couldn't help but laugh. Every family has its own problems. Honestly, although I've seen people tear each other apart in the entertainment industry, I had never encountered it before. I even thought we were a family, so I thought there was no need to make things so ugly. But now that I've actually encountered it, I've realized that some people can't be tolerated just because you want to. Compared to you, I am considered lucky. Although I haven't had a child in a long time, my mother-in-law has always been pleasant and has never said anything bad about me. How does President Mo plan to deal with this matter? He seems to be in a bit of a dilemma. After speaking, Tongning picked up her glass of milk and said to Long Jia with a deeper meaning, he has never been the type to suffer a loss. Especially since he is trying to make me suffer a loss. Of course, there was no way Hai Rui would step out and clarify things. If they were suspected of bullying her mother, it wouldn't do Tongning any good. In fact, it would deepen the public's misunderstanding of her. So, they could only guide the situation from the sidelines and slowly remind the public of what kind of person Tongning was. However, no one expected that the first person to step out and speak up for Tongning would be her. Arrogant? Perhaps a little. After all, she was willing to forgive an enemy like me that almost caused the death of me and her baby. Yet, someone said she was arrogant? That must be it. As long as you guys are happy. Yang Shi. This person was Yang Shi. The Yang Shi that Tongning had rescued from the depths of hell. Tongning had once said that rather than taking revenge on her, she would rather do her a favor because she would remember it and know how to repay it. And now, it was time for her to repay it. Tongning, I've finally gotten my chance to hit you when you're down. Yang Shi looked at the camera and smiled. I told you, you've been standing in the way of too many people. You deserve to admit defeat. Actually, I have a lot of things that I can accuse Tongning of. But, let's put my revelations aside for now. Let's talk about the problems that Ms. Hua has raised. The first option is to take advantage of Mo Ting's position. I'm sure everyone already knows whether or not Tongning has the ability and whether or not she needs someone to back her up. With Tongning's intelligence, if she needed to take advantage of others, she would not be in her current position. Over the past 2 years, she has gone from being an outdated model to where she is today. Even when she received an award, she still had to act to prove her abilities. Isn't this enough to explain everything? Let's talk about how Tongning's life is messed up. I'm quite confused by this. Others may not be brave enough to say this, but I'm no longer a part of the industry, so it doesn't matter anymore. Tongning has never participated in any social events, so how could she possibly be messed up? There's also the baby in her stomach. Honestly, Ms. Hua, as Tongning's former enemy, I would like to say something. It's none of your fucking business. Although you are a mother-in-law, even a mother-in-law has no right to criticize her son's life. The funniest thing is, her brother's boyfriend and girlfriend are having a private life at home. What does that have to do with you? You control everything, yet you're interfering with her sex life? She keeps her door shut. Chapter 614. Haze, to be honest, most young people don't want to be controlled by their parents-in-law these days. What would you feel if your parents-in-law took out your private life and gossiped about it? Above all, they are creating something out of nothing. Tongning has a high EQ. To put it bluntly, she doesn't care about what you say. She can turn anything into motivation. So, there's no way she would step out to clarify things. Even though she has a mother-in-law like this, she is still an elder. If she were to step out and argue, what would happen to her? But the funny thing is, from beginning to end, you guys are the ones that have been led around by the nose and have lost your ability to judge. Just wait and see. Time will always clarify everything. I am someone that has been taught a lesson by Tongning. I'm sure you guys have also been slapped in the face by her. I am Yangshi, a former enemy of Tongning. In order to return a favor, I would like to say a few words of truth. The video that Yangshi released was a 2-minute-long video. This was her current condition. She couldn't hold a press conference because she no longer had the ability or influence to do so. But she could still say a few words for Tongning. This was the first person to step out and speak up for Tongning. Of course, she was also a former enemy. For the sake of the Fei Tian Newcomer Award, the two of them had even fought to the death. But at a time like this, when Tongning was in a difficult situation, the first person to speak up for her was actually her. The internet was originally filled with praises for Hua Wenfeng's courage and the fact that she was brave enough to go against Tongning. At the same time, they were also trying to confirm if Hua Wenfeng's words were true, even though everyone already had an answer in their hearts. However, no one thought too deeply about the relationship between the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. It wasn't until Yangshi spoke up that everyone realized what was going on. That's right. In reality, everyone had their own judgment on how trustworthy Hua Wenfeng's words were. In fact, the people in Beijing already had their own judgment on what kind of person Tongning was. At least, up to this point, Tongning had not done anything that was worthy of criticism. She had always been flawless, so how could she possibly reveal so many flaws in front of her mother-in-law? So, Tongning's incident had yet to be investigated. But Hua Wenfeng had interfered too much with her son and daughter-in-law's lives. In fact, she had even cursed the child in Tongning's stomach, her own grandson. A person like this would never be accepted by a daughter-in-law, no matter what family she was placed in. Above all, this incident had happened in front of the entire nation. So, there was no way Hua Wenfeng could deny it. My mother-in-law is right, but I've heard worse. Not long after my friend got married, her mother-in-law brought her home with her and told her to get along. What a joke.
Oh, right.
My mother-in-law previously said sensitive to with Hua brought with your daughter-in-law, my friend, and told with Wooden. No, direct with I have a with. What I say? Hua, you say you ridiculous.
With.
I have and with I with, they have, no, of to of. They say honest. All in all, I think Hua Wenfeng has no proof. She is just spouting nonsense. So, I think I should support Tongning. Otherwise, I'm afraid my mother-in-law will treat me the same way. I can tolerate everything else because my mother-in-law has a loose mouth. But cursing the child in Tongning's stomach is something I can tolerate. If it was someone else's child, it would have been fine. But it had to be her grandson. How could you curse him? If the child ever finds out, I don't think you can be his grandmother anymore. Hua Wenfeng had no idea that her original intention to teach Tongning a lesson would go out of control and have the opposite effect. Mother-in-law. As a mother-in-law, she did not act like an elder at all. She did not show any respect to the younger generation. Instead, she revealed her evil side and made people want to vomit. Online, Hua Wenfeng was scolded one after another. In fact, the attacks were quite fierce. After seeing this, Hua Wenfeng was furious. So, she immediately gave Mo Ting a phone call. Isn't Hai Rui the leader of the entertainment industry? Why didn't they suppress this news? What news are you referring to? Mo Ting asked as he sat in his office. Are you going to allow the entire nation to scold your mother? It doesn't hurt or itch. Ting replied calmly. Because, before you were scolded, Tongning and I had already experienced this feeling.
You.
Ting did not wait for Hua Wenfeng to lose her temper again. Just as he was about to put down his phone, an anonymous phone number suddenly appeared on his phone. Ting immediately picked it up. Hello? President Mo, the matter has been settled. I've already repaid the favor I owe Tongning. This was a phone call from Yang Shi. Of course, this also indirectly told everyone that Yang Shi's decision to step forward at this time was part of Ting's plan. After all, the first person he thought of was Yang Shi. Aha! Ting's PR had always been impeccable and flawless. Even when faced with such a difficult problem, he was always able to find a breakthrough point and solve it in one move. It had already been 3 days since Zaheo last saw Chen Xingyan at the film studio. Could it be that this brat wasn't fixing her bones anymore and had changed her mind? Regarding this, Zaheo felt it was a pity, but there was nothing he could do. However, when he bumped into director Chen Feng, he noticed a tiny figure standing in front of him. He was so surprised that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Director, and something interesting happened. This little girl volunteered to be a stunt double. Look at her small frame and her arms and legs. Do you think she has the ability? Zaheo couldn't help but laugh, but he did not respond. He simply walked over to Director Chen Feng and said, Director Chen, I previously recommended this woman to you, but she kept rejecting me. She said she didn't want to act. I'm sure we don't lack an actress. After hearing this, Chen Feng immediately laughed. So, it's her? Yes. Chen Xingyan, you heard it. We don't need an actress anymore. And Zaheo said to Chen Xingyan after receiving Chen Feng's reply, you can go home now. Chen Xingyan glared at Zaheo. After quite some time, she finally said, you won't be able to find a better stunt double than me. If you don't believe me, you can give it a try.
Huh?
And Zaheo raised an eyebrow in doubt. How are you going to prove it? Chapter 6:15. Because I can fight, and I'm not afraid of fighting. In the entertainment industry, being a stunt double had always been a difficult task. And stunt doubles were the most dangerous. Not only were they the most dangerous, they never had the chance to show their face, and the chances of becoming famous were next to nothing. The industry often heard of stunt doubles getting injured. In the best cases, they were crippled, and in the worst cases, they lost their lives. But the pay they received was not even 1,000th of what they received as a celebrity. Hearing Chen Xingyan's words, Zaheo couldn't help but walk over to her and ask in a condescending manner, have you bought insurance for your entire body?
No.
Then, how dare you be so brave? Chen Xingyan pushed Zaheo away and scoffed. When I was a stunt double, I didn't even know where you were. Little brat, you sure are arrogant. I've been a stunt double since I was 7, Chen Xingyan said coolly. Plus, you are so strange. A few days ago, you kept pestering me to act. Now that I'm here, you're making things difficult for me. I only asked you to act and show your face. You should leave a stunt double to someone else. Look at you, you can't even lift anything with your shoulders or your hands, yet. Before Zaheo could finish a sentence, Chen Xingyan grabbed onto his shoulder and threw him over her shoulder. Her movements were clean and smooth as she did it all in one go. Chen Feng was shocked by Chen Xingyan's actions, but he couldn't help but admire the explosive strength of such a small figure. Are you going to take me in? Chen Xingyan asked as she held onto Zaheo. Let me ask you, do you really want to be a stunt double? And Zaheo asked as he slammed his hand on the floor. I will be a stunt double. Because she could only be a stunt double. As soon as she showed her face, her body would immediately stiffen up and her hands and feet would move nervously. So, she would rather be an unknown stunt double. Up to you, and Zaheo couldn't convince her. He wasn't familiar with her, so how could he influence her decision? Since you want to be a stunt double, what's the point of beating me? If you can beat the martial arts expert we have prepared, we can consider you as the female lead stunt double. No, the female lead doesn't need a stunt double.
Why?
Everyone knew that Tongning didn't need a stunt double. No matter how difficult a move was, she would always do it herself. So, we can consider you as the stunt double for the second female lead. After hearing Enzaheo's words, Chen Xingyan finally loosened her grip and stood up. She then asked Director Chen Feng, "Where are those people?" "Xiao Hachi, get the stunt doubles out here." Chen Xingyan originally thought that as long as she defeated these people, she would be able to land the role of a stunt double. But she never expected that Enzaheo would record everything on camera. "Isn't it just fighting?" Chen Xingyan looked at Enzaheo and asked, "You've been a stunt double for so many years and you don't even know how to move. No matter how well you play, if you're not in front of the camera, it's a waste of energy. Aren't you afraid of nothing?"
Come now.
Chen Xingyan could vaguely sense Enzaheo's revenge, so she made a disdainful gesture towards him. Enzaheo gave a calm smile as he watched Chen Xingyan take on 2 people on set. "Let's start." The other 2 stunt doubles were trained in martial arts. They were both trained by famous martial artists. As for her, Chen Xingyan stood opposite the 2 and glanced at Enzaheo's camera. Her expression was obviously unnatural and a little nervous. But a moment later, she closed her eyes. "The 2 of you can come at me together. I'll use only 1 pair of eyes." Enzaheo had already noticed Chen Xingyan's stiff expression in front of the camera. What did she mean by giving him a pair of eyes? She simply wanted to avoid the camera in order to display her skills. Did she really think she was righteous and generous? But she was just trying to show off in front of an expert. "Open your eyes." If, and I say if, the camera makes a mistake and we see that our stunt double is blind, wouldn't it be detrimental to the quality of the film? Chen Feng sat to one side, not knowing whether to laugh or cry at Enzaheo's words. "If you can't face the camera, then leave. No wonder you haven't gained any experience after being a stunt double for so many years." Enzaheo's words were a little overboard, so Chen Xingyan obviously couldn't handle the provocation. However, Chen Xingyan did not fight with the 2 stunt doubles. Instead, she pounced on Enzaheo, pressed him to the ground, and rode on top of him. "You are a pervert that loves to cause trouble." The scene suddenly became chaotic. Director Chen Feng decided to close his eyes. The way the 2 stunt doubles were lying on the ground was too embarrassing. A stunt double is also an actor. If an actor can't face the camera, then why would the crew need you? Do you think you are a big shot that the entire crew has to accommodate you? If you can't face the camera, then leave. There's no point in riding on top of me. I don't care how your previous crew used you, but now that you're on our set, you can't afford to make any mistakes. Haze. Director Chen Feng couldn't help but tell Enzaheo not to be so harsh with his words. "I'm really good at fighting." But if she had to face the camera, she... After saying this, Chen Xingyan stood up from Enzaheo's body with a slightly disappointed expression. "Even if this place doesn't want me, there will always be a place for me." As Enzaheo watched Chen Xingyan leave, he quickly stood up. However, at that moment, his trousers almost fell to the ground. His Gucci belt had been stolen by Chen Xingyan without him noticing. "Hey, why are you so harsh on her?" Chen Feng couldn't help but ask. Although Enzaheo had almost embarrassed himself, when he thought about Chen Xingyan's mother, he felt that there was no need for Chen Xingyan to end up like that. So, he decided to let her back off. "Hey, Zaheo, if you want to cherish her life, then you should take her under your wing and train her properly. According to her personality, do you think she wouldn't look for another production team? Other production teams aren't as humane as us." After hearing Elder Chin Feng's reminder, Enzaheo suddenly realized that the little brat was like a demon incarnate. So, he immediately chased after her, only to find Chen Xingyan leaving on a motorcycle. A motorcycle. In fact, it was a heavy machine. Chen Xingyan looked at Enzaheo from afar as she grabbed onto his belt with one hand and prepared to leave with a provocative look on her face. At this time, Enzaheo suddenly yelled, "I'm going to let you be a stunt double, but I have one condition. You need to sign a contract with me to be my stunt double and listen to everything I say. Otherwise, I can make it so that you won't be able to find work in the industry." Chapter 616. Meanwhile, in South Korea, Madam, it's not that we don't want to help you, but you've already been here too many times. With the extent of your injuries, we can't help you recover. Even if you do recover, you won't be able to return to how you used to be. The staff from the plastic surgery hospital spoke in fluent English. I think it's best if you look for another hospital. The woman put on her mask in disappointment. Although she had already gotten used to it after so many years, she had never been as anxious as she was now. If she couldn't recover her looks, then she wouldn't be able to show her face in public. In other words, she would embarrass Mo Ting. She didn't want to endure being pointed at by others, nor did she want Mo Ting and Tongning to suffer along with her. Most importantly, even if she went out looking like this, she wouldn't be able to deal with the Hua woman. In reality, she had always had faith in medicine because she believed that science would always improve. But after so many years, the injuries on her face had already become permanent and irreversible. If this continued, what would Mo Ting and Tongning do if they were to encounter endless problems in the future? When the time came, it seemed she could only place her hopes on DNA. Not only did Hua Wenfeng's exposure not hurt Tongning, it actually caused her to sink deeper and deeper. The public had already labeled her as the classic example of an evil mother-in-law because her actions were enough to make millions of young people dislike her. Later that night, at Hyatt Regency's seaside villa, Hua Wenfeng saw the insults and attacks online. She did not have the tolerance and tolerance of those in the industry, so her eyes turned red with anger as she threw her phone to the side. "Honey, be careful not to hurt yourself," Father Mo comforted. "I'll get Mo Ting to deal with this matter." "Deal with it? Apart from Tongning, does he even have a place in our eyes?" Hua Wenfeng asked. "Look at this child. We've always treated him well, but look at him now. For the sake of a woman, he's willing to let the entire country curse his mother. What kind of son have I given birth to? Why don't we return to the US?" Father Mo suggested. "What do you mean by return? You may be able to tolerate this, but I can't," Hua Wenfeng retorted. "How did I give birth to a son that doesn't even recognize his own family? Don't tell me you still want to go against Tongning? Forget it, it's beneath your status. Especially since she's already married to our son."
Don't worry about it.
Hua Wenfeng snorted. In reality, Tongning had already experienced most of the methods that were used against her in the industry. So, no matter what Hua Wenfeng was going to do, she was not afraid. But compared to scheming, Tongning preferred to spend her time practicing her script. After all, the more she read Concubine Ning, the more interested she became. Originally, everyone thought that this was simply a story of Concubine Ning messing up the court, but what surprised them the most was the various twists and turns in the story. Concubine Ning did all the bad things in the world, but in the end, she was finally caught by a loyal soldier and beheaded in front of the entire nation. But the person that was killed was Concubine Ning's older sister. So, she once again escaped and reappeared in the morning court of the next day. The head that was beheaded disappeared without a trace. Some people said that Concubine Ning had reincarnated in someone else's body. Others said that the previous emperor must have done too many evil deeds to allow Concubine Ning to continue her purgatory. But at this time, Concubine Ning changed her evil ways. Step by step, against the opposition of the public, she revealed her virtue. Eventually, the public's hatred for her changed to love and respect. But one day, a headless corpse appeared in court and asked for Concubine Ning's head. Everyone was scared out of their wits. Only Concubine Ning revealed the truth. She was indeed not Concubine Ning. She was actually Concubine Ning's older sister. She had been framed by her younger sister and beheaded. But to punish Concubine Ning, the heavens chopped off her head and allowed her to reincarnate in Concubine Ning's body. After hearing this, everyone present immediately wanted to capture the headless female corpse. However, the headless female corpse cut her finger and wrote a few big words in the main hall. "The people in the imperial court are undoubtedly the treacherous concubines." Unfortunately, no one believed the headless female corpse's words, and they directly dismembered her into pieces. But what was her real identity? Even Tongning did not manage to get her hands on the final script. "Are you that obsessed with this script?" After returning home from work, Mo Ting saw Tongning engrossed in her book, so he approached her and asked. Tongning put down the script and smiled at Mo Ting. This story is full of ups and downs. It is indeed interesting, but it is also very difficult to film. I like this kind of challenge. No matter how interesting it is, you still need to eat first. Mo Ting put away her script and pulled her into his embrace. If you go hungry, my heart will ache. Okay. Tongning obediently allowed Mo Ting to lead her to the dining table. Lu Che will be away for a few days, so from tomorrow onwards, I will be a little busier. You can ask Fong Yu to share the burden. Fong Yu already has a lot of work to begin with. If you ask him to share the burden, Hu Jingjing will have a problem with it, Mo Ting replied. In reality, this was simply a case of love the house, love its dog. If it was someone else that wasn't Tongning's friend, Mo Ting wouldn't have bothered. Okay. But Zaheo said he was going to deliver the script for the last episode today, but he's still nowhere to be seen. Tongning didn't know about the stunt double yet. She was simply surprised that the usually punctual Zaheo didn't show up today. In reality, Tongning was looking forward to it because she really wanted to know the content of the last episode. She really wanted to know the answer. Of course, she had no idea how big of a change Qin Xingyan's appearance would bring to them. In the end, the stunt double couldn't resist Zaheo's temptation as she obediently stepped off the motorcycle. Why did you sign a stunt double for no reason? Is there something wrong with your brain? Qin Xingyan was especially cautious of Zaheo because of this. Is this the unspoken rules? Let me tell you, I've seen a lot of dirty things in the industry. I sell my art, not my body. And Zaheo snatched the belt from her hands and scoffed. You? I haven't even touched a hair on your body yet, and I'm already sprawled all over the floor. No matter how tired I am of life, I don't want to die. Plus, you're an old fox in the industry. Why are you acting in front of me? If I'm going to be blunt with your body, I don't need to take the risk of breaking the rules. Then, why did you sign me? To serve the people so that they won't be tricked by you, and Zaheo humphed. In reality, Zaheo had no idea that he had actually done a good deed. Chapter 617. Over the past few days, Hua Wenfeng had been furious. On one hand, she was furious at the violence of the internet. On the other hand, she was furious at Mo Ting for ignoring her. No matter what, she was still Mo Ting's mother. But, from the looks of it, her place in Mo Ting's heart wasn't even comparable to an actress. How could someone that had been a mother for over 10 years accept this? You're a high-level intellectual after all. Why are you bickering with an actor? It wouldn't matter if it was someone else, but look at how amazing this performer is. If I really let her go, I don't know how the Mo family will be plotted against by her, Hua Wenfeng said as she glared at Father Mo. Don't be an actor. After all, your son owns an entertainment company. Speaking of which, I really regret my decision to object to Mo Ting marrying a model. If I hadn't objected, things wouldn't have gotten out of hand today, Hua Wenfeng said as she turned to Father Mo. Did you know? The professor said that the child in her womb is a daughter? What's wrong with my daughter? Father Mo couldn't understand what she meant. It's fine if it's a son, but if it's a daughter and she doesn't learn from her mother, what should we do? I don't want such a granddaughter. Do you think you can stop the child from being born? Hua Wenfeng did not continue to discuss the matter with Father Mo. Instead, she gave Mo Ting a phone call. Xiao Ting, the other day I took Xiao Ning to see the professor. The professor told me that Xiao Ning is pregnant with a daughter. But I remember you like sons, right? Get straight to the point. Also, don't call me Xiao Ning. That's not for you to do. Don't make me sick. The professor also said that this child might be born with a serious illness. I didn't know that Professor Li had such a prophetic ability. Miss Hua, I will only give you one warning. Don't try to scheme against my child otherwise. Otherwise what? Hua Wenfeng asked. It won't end well, Mo Ting said before he hung up the phone. He never imagined that Hua Wenfeng would do something like this and say something like this. After all, she was just one step away from saying, tell Tongning to abort the child. What was she thinking? Had she never considered that the child growing in Tang Ning's stomach would also be her grandson? Of course, Mo Ting did not take Hua Wenfeng seriously, so he continued to work. At this time, he received a phone call from Liu Che, president. Are there any clues? Mo Ting immediately asked. I've gone to the research institute. Everything is normal. If something big really happened, there's no way Uncle wouldn't tell you. So, I think you're overthinking it. Moreover, this kind of thing sounds really unimaginable. Unimaginable? Mo Ting's lips curved upward slightly. The absurdity of the real world was far greater than the creation of various works. Modern people had seen even more unimaginable things, so he didn't think that his idea was wild. Perhaps there was someone who could give him an answer to this matter. So, Mo Ting gave Bei Qindong a phone call. And the person who picked up the phone was Han Shiner. President Mo, please wait a moment. Brother Dong is filming. Or should I ask him to call you back? At this time, Bei Qindong finished filming and approached Han Shiner, who was on the phone. Do you need to be so respectful? It's President Mo. Give it to me. Bei Qindong removed his mask and grabbed the phone impatiently. What is it? I want to know why my mother changed her surname back then, and Mo Ting asked straightforwardly. What a joke. As her son, you don't know the answer. Why are you asking me? Bei Qindong scoffed. A moment later, his eyes lit up. It happened over 10 years ago. At that time, I was only 15 to 16. My auntie suddenly returned and said she wanted to change her surname. Grandfather didn't agree, so the two of them had a falling out. In the end, my auntie still changed her surname willfully. So, you should ask Grandpa about the details of this matter. But I do remember my auntie saying that she hated actors. Mo Ting did not ask any further as he hung up the phone. He remembered that although Hua Wenfeng didn't like him taking over Hai Rue in the past, she didn't say anything. Nor did she have such a deep prejudice against actors. So, what happened to make Hua Wenfeng suddenly hate actors so much? Mo Ting suddenly had a lot of questions in his mind. Mo Ting put down his phone and prepared to return home. But a moment later, he received another phone call from Liu Che. President, I just found out from an old researcher that before Uncle and Annie joined Ocean Times Science and Technology Research Institute, they had previously worked at another research institute. According to his recollection, that research institute seemed to have caught on fire, but Uncle and Annie were fine, so no one mentioned it. Investigate the fire in detail, Mo Ting instructed.
Okay.
After hanging up the phone, Mo Ting left Hai Rue and headed over to the villa where Father Mo and Hua Wenfeng lived without notifying his wife. Although they were father and son, Father Mo was quite surprised that Mo Ting would visit them at a time like this because of the recent news and other unpleasant incidents. The relationship between father and son was obviously broken and estranged, so it was quite awkward. Of course, this was his property, so Mo Ting did not need to be polite. He directly entered the living room and sat down on the sofa. I want to know about the fire at the Carter Biological Research Institute. How did you know about this? Father Mo was even more surprised. I've never told anyone about this. You simply need to tell me what happened. Father Mo thought for a moment before he walked over to the sofa opposite Mo Ting and sat down. That was 19 years ago. At that time, you were only in your teens. That's why I've never told you about it. It's not a big deal. At that time, the research institute caught on fire because a specialist didn't handle the chemicals properly. Luckily, your mother and I were fine, so we moved to the current research institute. From that day onwards, has Ms. Hua changed in any way? Mo Ting asked with a deeper meaning. Father Mo did not think too deeply into it, so he replied, Your mother was terrified. She was bedridden for over a month before she slowly got better. Perhaps she was affected by the chemicals, so she became a little more irritable. What about her insistence on changing her surname? What's wrong with you today? Father Mo asked curiously. You simply need to answer me, Mo Ting emphasized coldly. Chapter 6:18. It's not like you don't know that your mother is a bit of a believer in luck. Previously, A fortune teller told her that she needed to change her surname to turn her misfortune into fortune. So, she changed it. Father Emo replied casually, like he had no doubts about his wife's words. I remember, although she didn't like actors in the past, it wasn't to the point of hating them. You haven't gotten married for so many years, so your mother was a bit worried about your industry. As time went by, it turned into hatred. In that case, why did she only hate actors? Ting asked, as he once again found the crux of the problem. Father Emo was a little surprised. Finally, he understood the meaning behind Ting's words, so he looked at Ting confusedly. Ting, why are you asking me these questions today? It's nothing. I simply want to understand Mom better and solve the problem between her and Tongning. After hearing Ting's answer, Father Emo didn't believe him, but he did not continue to doubt him. Do you need a reason to hate something? Indeed, there was no need. But this wasn't a coincidence. Ting was now certain that there were some things that even his father didn't know about. I'm here today for no other reason. I simply hope that you can control your wife. Otherwise, when I make a move, I won't be able to recognize anyone. Hearing this, Father Emo was finally angered. He pointed at Ting and asked, "Is this how you treat your parents?" Ting did not respond. He simply looked deeply into Father Mo's eyes. Perhaps he felt a little sympathy for him. Afterwards, Ting returned home. However, Tongning noticed the time he had arrived, so she sat down on the sofa and asked, "Mr. Emo, you're 20 minutes late today." Ting wrapped his arm around Tongning and hugged her tightly. "Don't ask anything.
Give me some time."
I won't ask, Tongning replied firmly. Even if you didn't tell me to, I wouldn't have asked. The couple were of one mind. Tongning could vaguely guess what Ting had been up to recently. By the way, Jingjing invited me to her birthday party. Do you want to go? Ting let go of Tongning and helped her lie down on the sofa. He then tidied up the script on the sofa. Of course I have to go, Tongning said. Within the industry, she didn't have a lot of friends to begin with. Apart from those that were about to betray her, like Song Yenshu, how many people did she have left that she could confide in? I'll arrange it. How long is it? 7:00 at night the day after tomorrow. Late at night, in the black and white apartment. Chun Xingyan tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep. She still hadn't given Zaheo an official answer, whether or not she wanted to become his stunt double. If she signed the contract, she would be able to get a lot of resources. She would not have to worry about not having a substitute in the future. However, at the same time, she would also lose her freedom and would no longer be able to be the devil incarnate that she used to be. Should I sign it or not? Just as Qin Xingyan was at her wit's end, she suddenly heard the sound of the door opening. She went downstairs and saw a woman carrying her luggage at the door. She immediately went up to her and asked, "Mom, where have you been?" The woman put down the luggage in her hands and suddenly looked at Qin Xingyan with a dark expression. "Xiaoxing, Mom has something to tell you." "Just say it." "Why are you so serious?" Qin Xingyan rolled her eyes as she took the luggage from the woman's hands and led her to the sofa. The woman was silent for a moment before she grabbed onto Qin Xingyan's arm and said, "Actually." "Huh?" The woman looked at Qin Xingyan in seriousness, but she couldn't say a word. The words were stuck in her throat, but she couldn't get them out. "Forget it. Mom is tired. I want to get some rest." As soon as Qin Xingyan heard this, her initial excitement disappeared. "Mom, we don't have secrets, do we? Mom is really tired." The woman insisted. "Fine, if you don't want to tell me, then I'll tell you. I can only be a stunt double, but I have one condition. I need to sign a contract with someone and follow their arrangements. What do you think? Is it the young man that you hit last time?" The woman thought for a moment before replying. "You can sign it. I think he's a good guy." Actually, another reason was because she knew that Zaheo and Tongning had a good relationship. With this relationship, it would be easier for her to find out about Tongning and Ting. "What's good about him?" Chun Xingyan couldn't help but complain. "But since you're confident, I don't mind. Let's just sign it. Do you think I'm afraid that he'll eat me up? If he dares, I can cripple his brother." After hearing Qin Xingyan's words, The woman wasn't sure if she had done the right thing by persuading Qin Xingyan. She had almost said it out loud, but if Qin Xingyan found out, according to her temper, she would definitely storm over to Hai Rui and cause trouble for Hua Wenfeng. This wasn't what she wanted. She needed to slowly plan and take her time. So, if she allowed Qin Xingyan to sign with Zhehao, she would have the opportunity to get close to Mo Ting and Tongning. This would also give the siblings a chance to get to know each other better. Would Xiao Ting like Qin Xingyan's naughty sister? But, Mom, I have a question. And Zhehao has asked me to give him an answer at Hu Jingjing's birthday party in 2 days. But I don't have a proper dress. Silly, Mr. Then must have confirmed that you've agreed to sign with him. He's trying to introduce you to some contacts. The woman immediately saw through Zhehao's plan. I know, you're trying to trick your mom into giving you back your money, aren't you? Hu Jingjing's birthday party. According to Hu Jingjing and Tongning's relationship, there was no reason for Tongning not to attend. Perhaps that would be her only chance to see Mo Ting. Xiao Xing, since you've decided to sign the contract, you should take Mom with you. I have a few things I want to say to Mr. And Qin Xingyan was a little surprised. She never expected that her mother would one day take the initiative to attend a public event. So, she was completely stunned.
What?
Are you afraid that your mother will embarrass you? Who would dare to say anything bad about my mother? Unless she doesn't want to live. Qin Xingyan immediately put her arm around the woman's shoulder and said, Looks are nothing. My mother is the best mother in the world. Of course, if my mother could return my money, that would be even better. I'll return it to you. I'll return it to you. She didn't dare to acknowledge Mo Ting because she was currently in an ugly state. Over the years, she had already seen through the strange gazes of the world. So, she didn't want Mo Ting to be ridiculed and laughed at because of her. In this world, sometimes, a beautiful face could do a lot of things. Chapter 619. Hu Jingjing was a supermodel. Even though she was married, her elegance and status were better than before. She was already very famous internationally, and she had even won the title of #1 in Asia. After all, Hai Rui's former PR director and current deputy CEO, Fang Yu, was her husband. When it came to Hu Jingjing's development, Fang Yu naturally had a clear plan, and every step was meaningful. Today was Hu Jingjing's birthday. In order to celebrate his beloved wife's birthday, Fang Yu had already prepared Garden Hotel for her. Therefore, the hotel was filled with entrances and surprises. There weren't a lot of people invited to the party. Most of them were models that were popular in the fashion industry and some good friends of Hai Rui. Everyone gathered together and chatted amongst themselves. I heard Tongning will be here tonight, too. If Tongning hadn't chosen to act at that time, her current status would be many times higher than Jingjing's. Do you think Jingjing is an expert? You guys probably haven't seen her walk the runway. Several young models gathered together to drink and chat. Although they were already famous, if they wanted to become famous artists in Hai Rui, they were still far from being on the same level as Hu Jingjing. These people were attending the event as female companions. In reality, Hai Rui's other managers were using the event as an excuse to raise their status. In other words, they wanted to use Hu Jingjing's support. Naturally, Fang Yu turned a blind eye to the people from Hai Rui. After all, this was his usual tactic. I've seen Tongning's acting before. I have to say this is a gift from God. But it doesn't seem like President Mo's family has been doing well lately. Tongning's relationship with her mother-in-law and daughter-in-law has caused quite a stir. Could it be that Tongning's child is really unhealthy? Moreover, she was already in such a state. She would never be able to walk on the runway again, right? After all, he's 27. Hearing their discussion, Hu Jingjing, who was standing behind them, immediately approached them. She smiled warmly, but there was a hidden needle in her words. It seems you guys haven't learned Hai Rui's rules? Especially when you talk about Tongning. Do you still want your future? As soon as they heard Hu Jingjing's warning, they immediately shut their mouths in fear. But no matter how much time passed, Hu Jingjing couldn't get used to people talking behind her back. If I didn't see it, wouldn't you have protected me for nothing? Tongning's joking voice suddenly rang out from behind her. As Hu Jingjing turned around, she noticed the pregnant woman still looked as energetic and beautiful as ever. They're just a few inexperienced models. Tongning glanced at Hu Jingjing and circled around her to look at the others. She then said, "If you think you have reached the level where you can casually talk about me, then you can say it in front of me." The few of them turned pale and looked at each other. Remember, in this industry, a loose tongue causes trouble. Even if you can't stop yourself from gossiping, don't open your mouth easily, otherwise. Tongning's words were spoken in a gentle manner. It sounded like she was giving them a kind warning, but, from her words, they could detect a hint of danger. So, before Tongning could say anything else, they could only run away in fear. "You're still not willing to take a loss." Hu Jingjing couldn't help but laugh. "Wise. Where's President Mo?" Hu Jingjing looked around for Mo Ting when she saw Mo Ting was alone. "He'll be here later.
He's held up by something."
The two hadn't seen each other for a long time, so naturally, they had a lot to talk about. At this time, Zaheo entered the hotel with a birthday present in his hands. He approached the two women and said, "I'm sure you don't mind that I came uninvited." Zaheo and Hu Jingjing had crossed paths because of Tongning's social circle. Plus, Fong Yu and Zaheo had a close relationship recently. So, it was understandable that Zaheo would attend Hu Jingjing's birthday party. "Fong Yu is over there." Hu Jingjing gestured for Zaheo not to disturb her conversation with Tongning. After Zaheo put down his present, he simply shrugged his shoulders and turned around to join in the conversation with the people from Hai Rui. He was waiting for Chen Xingyan's final answer. So, he was indeed here with a motive. Not long after, Mo Ting's tall figure entered the venue. Because of his arrival, the entire venue was in an uproar as a round of applause broke out. Mo Ting's expression remained the same. Because this was his empire, even if he didn't say a word, no one would think that he was arrogant. Because everyone knew that the reason why he would attend such an occasion was for one person.
Tongning.
Or perhaps he was here because of two people and the child in her stomach. Mo Ting walked over to Tongning's side and pulled her into his embrace. Hu Jingjing looked at Tongning helplessly. Of course, Tongning could only look back at her helplessly. Not long after, the birthday party started, and the venue was filled with singing and dancing. The atmosphere was lively. Only Zaheo sat in a corner and looked at the entrance. Every now and then, he would glance down at his watch. Looking at the time, it seemed Chen Xingyan wouldn't be coming. However, just as Zaheo felt there was no need to stay any longer, the sound of arguing could be heard from the entrance. Zaheo originally wanted to leave, but just as he stood up, he was stopped by a familiar voice. "Zaheo, I don't have an invitation. I can't come in." Zaheo was stunned for a moment. Chen Xingyan, dressed in a black leather jacket, poked her head into the hall and waved at him. Everyone turned to look at him, including Tongning. Zaheo felt a little uncomfortable as he immediately walked over to the entrance and said to the attendant, "This is my artist." "Sorry, Mr. N." The attendant apologized before leaving. At this time, Zaheo lowered his head and asked Chen Xingyan, "Why did you come dressed like this?"
"What?"
"I didn't steal or rob you. Did I embarrass you?" Chen Xingyan squinted her eyes as she taunted Zaheo. "At least, if you changed into a dress, the attendant wouldn't stop you at the entrance. Plus, do you know where you are? President Mo and Tongning from Hai Rui are also here." Chen Xingyan peeked her head into the hall and noticed there were plenty of famous celebrities present. But the strange thing was, she did not feel inferior because she wasn't dressed appropriately. In fact, Chen Xingyan acted naturally. It seemed, from the bottom of her heart, she had never looked down on herself. So, Zaheo was very satisfied with this. "Does that mean you've agreed to sign a contract?" "Wait a moment. My mother wants to ask you a few questions," Chen Xingyan replied. After speaking, Chen Xingyan turned around and looked at the old woman's hiding spot. She discovered she was looking at Mo Ting through the screen. Even the old lady knows how to look at a handsome man. However, perhaps because the old woman was too excited, She used too much force as a loud bang was heard, the screen actually fell to the ground, and she was exposed in front of everyone's eyes. Chapter 620. What's happening? Where did this person come from? Did a fan sneak in? Everyone looked at the old woman in surprise. Even Enchanting glanced over subtly. She was filled with anticipation and fear, so the old woman quickly covered her face mask and turned around to apologize. "I'm so sorry." Jingjing wasn't someone that liked to cause trouble, so she did not pursue the matter. She simply instructed the hotel staff to deal with it. However, as soon as the hotel staff approached, they discovered that the intricately crafted folding screen had already been smashed. The hotel staff had no way of dealing with it. After all, compensation was involved, so they called the hotel manager over. As soon as the hotel manager had a look at the screen, his expression changed. "Madam, do you know how much this folding screen costs?" The old woman was afraid of causing a commotion, so she subconsciously took a few steps back. But seeing that she was about to run away, the hotel manager quickly held her back. "Don't try to avoid responsibility." Seeing this, Chen Xingyan immediately ran over and pushed the hotel manager away. "What are you doing? Don't touch my mom." Seeing Chen Xingyan's outfit, the hotel manager was even more certain that she wasn't an artist, but a fan that was trying to take advantage of the situation. So his attitude turned colder. "I don't know how you got into the hotel, but since you damaged something, you need to compensate for it." If this madam had controlled herself, perhaps this folding screen wouldn't have been damaged. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Chen Xingyan was obviously angered. "If you have a problem with me, don't insult my mother." This time, Tongning heard this. Under Enchanting's protection, she and Jingjing approached the door. Seeing the scene in front of them, she couldn't help but say to the hotel manager, "Don't judge a book by its cover. This behavior won't do any good for your hotel." Seeing that Tongning had spoken up, the hotel manager immediately lowered his head and smiled in embarrassment. As the old woman saw Enchanting and Tongning getting so close, she became even more nervous as she wrapped herself up tightly. In order to resolve the matter as soon as possible without being discovered, she said, "I will compensate you. But do you know how much this folding screen costs?" Jingjing was about to speak, but the old woman suddenly replied, "This folding screen is a brand used by the British royal family. There are less than 50 hotels in the entire world that have the rights to purchase it." When the hotel manager heard this, he was stunned for a moment. His eyes widened in shock. However, his next sentence was much more polite. "Then the price. Xiao Xing, give me your contact number." "We'll be leaving first," the woman suddenly said anxiously. Actually, even Chen Xingyan was a little surprised that her mother would know about something so exaggerated. At this time, Zhao stepped forward and said to the hotel manager, "Put it on my tab." "Yes, Mr." And the hotel manager couldn't have asked for more. Afterwards, Zhao turned to leave with the two women. However, Tongning stopped him. "Zhao, you still haven't given me something? I'll send it to you later." The woman quickly glanced at Enchanting and lowered her head. But how could her every move escape Enchanting's eyes? Soon, Zhao escorted the couple out of the venue. After boarding the car, Zhao said, "Auntie, let me take you home first." The woman's entire body was trembling, but she was actually extremely nervous. Of course, Zhao was also a little curious about the woman's identity. "Mom, how did you know about the screen?" "I've seen it before," the woman said with a slightly aged tone. Actually, this luxurious home furnishings were opened by an Asian. After all, how could there be a screen in the UK? Furthermore, she had a close relationship with this person.
Fine.
"Don't you have a question for Zhao? Ask him now." The woman sneaked a glance at Zhao through the rearview mirror and lowered her head, not daring to look at him. "Forget it. Let's do it another day. You decide your own business." Zhao was a little surprised. The woman's emotions seemed to be fluctuating quite a bit. "In that case, did you come here to give the hotel money for nothing?" Chen Xingyan rolled her eyes. "How much did the screen cost?" It shouldn't be less than $2 million, and Zaheo replied. Chen Xingyan glanced at the woman from behind. Since I'm already your signed artist, then you can pay for it. You want to be a stunt double? How many scenes do you think you need to film before I can recoup my losses? Or, how many times do you need to swindle others before you can pay back your debt? Hearing the word swindle, the woman felt a little uncomfortable, so she retorted, Xiaoxing may be naughty, but she wouldn't do something like swindle others. She doesn't need to. The woman did not explain why she didn't need to. So, the two were naturally confused. After escorting the woman home, and Zaheo finally asked Chen Xingyan, Does your mother seem a little strange today? She seems like someone else. But, what does that have to do with you? Chen Xingyan scanned Zaheo from head to toe. Since you said you wanted to sign with me, then you are my artist. Now that you are my artist, you have to listen to everything I say. And Zaheo, don't be too happy. If I am the heiress of a rich family, I will definitely cook you for revenge, Chen Xingyan humphed. But, of course, she had no idea that this humph would eventually become reality. The two were too casual, so they naturally didn't notice anything else. But Mo Ting and Tong Ning were both observant people. So, after seeing the woman, they immediately felt that something wasn't quite right. At least, a woman dressed in ordinary clothes that could explain the origins of a luxurious screen would definitely leave a deep impression. However, their curiosity wasn't enough for them to investigate the woman. Ting, everything that happened tonight was quite interesting. Did you see the expression on Zaheo's face? That woman. It's getting late. Get some rest, Mo Ting said as he wrapped his arm around Tong Ning and placed a kiss on her forehead. Tong Ning did not say anything else, but she had a smile on her face. Meanwhile, not long after Hua Wenfeng got into bed, Father Mo suddenly thought of something. A couple of days ago, Mo Ting came over and asked me a lot of strange questions. He also asked me about the fire that broke out at the research institute. After hearing this, Hua Wenfeng froze. Why would he ask all these questions out of the blue? How would I know? He even asked you why you changed your surname. Hua Wenfeng panicked as her body tensed up. So, you told him everything? It's not a secret. Why can't I tell him? Father Mo put down the glasses in his hands and lay down on the bed with Hua Wenfeng. I wonder what the two of you are doing. Chapter 6:21. Hua Wenfeng turned her back to Father Mo. At this moment, she couldn't say a word. There was only one feeling in her heart and mind: panic. There was no way Mo Ting would find out. She had hidden it well and had been safe for so many years. There was no way Mo Ting would find out about it. She shouldn't scare herself. Even so, Hua Wenfeng tried to comfort herself with all sorts of excuses, but she couldn't stop her trembling body. The sense of danger that she was about to be exposed caused her to fall into a deep state of fear. As a result, nightmares haunted her for the entire night. The next day, Zaheo arrived at the black and white apartment early in the morning. Originally, he wanted to ask Chen Xingyan if she had a habit of sleeping in. But, to his surprise, he discovered that this 19-year-old child would be practicing martial arts in the garden before dawn, regardless of whether it was windy or rainy. The old woman poured some tea for Zaheo as he watched from the garden. She said apologetically, I'm really sorry about yesterday. Auntie, you're being too serious. But, I'm curious, why did you fall for Xiaoxing? She's very interesting, and Zaheo replied straightforwardly. She lives a very independent life and isn't restricted by the outside world. The old woman smiled and did not say another word. After quite some time, she finally asked Zaheo, You seem to be very close to the superstar Tong Ning. I saw her last night. She's really beautiful. And that President Mo. Auntie also seems to have a lot of secrets, and Zaheo said with a deeper meaning. From now on, I'll leave my Xiaoxing in your care, the old woman said as she looked at Chen Xingyan. This child can actually endure hardships, but he can't be bullied. From what Annie has said, are you planning to go somewhere far away? The old woman did not respond. But after returning from Huijingjing's dinner, she had thought about a lot. Especially after seeing Ting and Tongning, as well as Tongning's big belly, she realized that there were some things that she needed to face on her own. And Zaheo looked at the old woman. It was easy to tell the story behind her eyes. However, he never expected that the old woman's story would be so closely related to his life. Soon, Qin Xingyan finished her training and approached Zaheo covered in sweat. "What did my mother say to you?" "Pack up and go to your new residence." However, Zaheo did not respond to Qin Xingyan's question. Instead, he gave her an order. "Since you are assigned stunt double, you should act like one. I will arrange a new apartment for you." "Are you going to train me as your intern?" "I'm telling you, I'm only a stunt double." And Zaheo looked at Qin Xingyan helplessly. But at the same time, he was glad that, at her age, she hadn't lost her mind because of the extravagance. He should be able to bring out a very interesting artist. Hua Wenfeng was a little nervous. She wanted to know if Ting's question was intentional or just a coincidence. So, early the next morning, she used the excuse of making soup to visit the couple's love nest. Did she forget that 2 days ago, she caused a huge uproar in Beijing because of her mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship? Was she going to rely on this bowl of chicken soup to pretend that nothing had happened? But even though Tongning didn't have a good relationship with Hua Wenfeng, she was still a mother-in-law. So, Tongning couldn't possibly reject her at the door. So, all she could do was invite her in and carefully deal with her. After entering the living room, Hua Wenfeng placed the chicken soup on the table and looked at the script beside Tongning. "Are you researching a new role again?" Tongning smiled and put away the script. She then asked Hua Wenfeng, "Mom, if you have something to say, why don't you get straight to the point? Has Ting gone to Hairue?" Hua Wenfeng looked around for Ting. "Yes, he is going to discuss a very important film collaboration today." Tongning nodded her head. She had a calm expression on her face, as if she was waiting to see what trick he was going to play. Hua Wenfeng did not panic. Like a normal mother-in-law, she scooped out a bowl of chicken soup and handed it to Tongning. However, Tongning did not reach out her hand to receive it.
What?
"Are you afraid that I've poisoned it?" "Mom, I just had breakfast." "I can't drink much," Tongning replied straightforwardly. Hua Wenfeng did not force her. After thinking for a while, she finally got straight to the point. "Has Xiaoting told you anything about me recently? If he wants to understand me, he can simply ask me. Why would he investigate me?" "Investigate?" Tongning was a little confused. After all, she really had no idea about this, so she did not try to hide anything. "Mom, what are you talking about? I don't quite understand. Has Xiaoting ever mentioned my name to you?" "Oh, because I have a good relationship with Bei Qindong. I once asked him why your surname isn't Bei. At that time, he did not answer me. He said he would only know if he asked Dad." Hearing Tongning's reply, Hua Wenfeng suddenly calmed down. So it was because Tongning had asked. But since Tongning had asked, Ting would definitely do his best to investigate. If he found out that she had deliberately fallen out with Elder Bei because she was afraid he would recognize her, who knew how much trouble he would cause. So, Hua Wenfeng's expression turned a little ugly. "You don't need to know everything about me. You just need to take care of yourself." "I know," Tongning replied with a deeper meaning. For some reason, Hua Wenfeng couldn't look into Tongning's eyes. She had a feeling that Tongning had already sensed something. In order to bury this matter forever, Hua Wenfeng felt that she needed to get rid of this troublesome daughter-in-law. After all, the child in Tongning's stomach wasn't her real grandson. "From now on, don't ask Ting about me." After speaking, Hua Wenfeng left Tongning and Ting's love nest. However, this made Tongning even more certain that there was something wrong with Hua Wenfeng. Hua Wenfeng, of course, sensed danger. So, as soon as she arrived at Tongning's home, she purposely cut her arm and returned home. As soon as Father saw her injured, he immediately ran over and asked, "What happened?" "Your daughter-in-law did it. She's probably still angry about what happened a few days ago, so she smashed the bowl of chicken soup on the floor and cut me," Hua Wenfeng said in a choked-up voice. Hubby, we really can't let this woman live. She used to be with another man, but because she wanted to get revenge, she ended up with Ting. She never had any good intentions from the beginning. Father Emo looked at the fresh blood on Hua Wenfeng's arm and his eyes burned with anger. That bastard. She's completely out of control. Hubby, how can I tolerate a daughter-in-law like this? Chapter 6:22. After hearing this, Father Emo put down Hua Wenfeng and headed over to Tongning and Emo Ting's home. Of course, this time, Tongning wasn't alone, and Zaheo was there to deliver the final script for Concubine Ning. Seeing a man and woman alone in the same room, Father Emo couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. Is this how you take care of your pregnancy when Ting isn't home? Tongning stood at the doorway in confusion. Meanwhile, and Zaheo smiled and waved the script in his hand. I think Uncle has misunderstood. I am here on official business. Tongning, and I don't have the relationship you think we do. Father Emo looked at Tongning awkwardly. What did you do to your mother-in-law just now? Hearing this question, Tongning was even more confused. Father, I don't understand what you are talking about. You don't understand? After speaking, Father Emo threw a slap across Tongning's face. Although Tongning reacted quickly and did not actually hit her cheek, her chin was still hit. Emo Ting once said that he should control his own wife. Since you are so arrogant, don't blame me for taking action. Tongning was a little surprised. At this time, and Zaheo naturally approached. Uncle, don't you think you've gone a bit overboard? She scratched her mother-in-law and sent Wenfeng home covered in blood. Is that right? I will take Wenfeng to get her injuries examined in a moment. This matter isn't over yet. After speaking, Father Emo turned around and left. Meanwhile, Tongning looked at Zaheo with a dark expression. Did you hit that evil mother-in-law? What do you think? Tongning asked. And Zaheo thought for a moment and replied, You've never been one to rely on force to solve a problem. So I don't believe you actually hit her. In other words, she did it herself. Tongning finished in Zaheo's sentence. It seems another drama is about to unfold. Since she has found a husband to back her up, shouldn't you also? Tongning understood in Zaheo's hint, but she didn't want to do it. After all, they were Emo Ting's biological parents. She didn't want Emo Ting to be blamed. I can handle it myself. Of course, don't think this way. I will endure this humiliation. Father Emo said he wanted to take Hua Wenfeng for a checkup, so the results were sensational. Over half of the Beijing media were alerted. Father Emo is accusing his daughter-in-law of committing a crime by bringing his wife to have her injuries examined. Tongning injured her mother-in-law, so Father Emo decided to take legal action in the name of justice. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law matter has been stirred up again. What is Tongning's motive in hurting someone? As such, even if Tongning didn't mention it, Emo Ting would still be able to see the exciting scene that happened at Hyatt Regency. So, as soon as he arrived home, the first thing he did was to check on Tongning. I'm not injured, Tongning smiled. Seeing the man so nervous, she couldn't bear to see him like this. Ting. Don't say anything, I know. One sentence from Emo Ting made Tongning swallow back the words she was about to say. I know everything. Let's just deal with this matter coldly. There's no need to pay attention to it. After all, I didn't do anything. After all, Father Mo's actions were a public challenge to Emo Ting's authority. He had been in the entertainment industry for so many years. If he suddenly had parents like this, how would the public view him? What would they think? How was he going to manage the entertainment industry from now on? But Hua Wenfeng was injured this time. If she hadn't gone crazy, everyone would have believed that Tongning was responsible for the gash on her arm. Emo Ting did not say a word. In this aspect, he was very similar to Tongning. When he didn't say a word, his mind was filled with thoughts. In fact, it was as if he had already made a decision. Was there anything in this world that Emo Ting couldn't resolve? The answer was no. However, before Emo Ting could step in and resolve the matter, someone had already spoken up for Tongning online. Hua Wenfeng is a madwoman. I saw it with my own eyes. She cut her own arm and tried to frame Tongning. Did everyone forget that she previously stabbed Tongning? As soon as this comment appeared, people immediately followed suit. You said you saw it. Show us the evidence. Hua Wenfeng accused Tongning, but she didn't present any evidence either. But no matter how crazy Hua Wenfeng is, she wouldn't cut herself, right? Who can say for sure? After all, she's already done things that are worse than an animal. Below the stage, a lot of people tried to find out what she meant. But the person that revealed the truth soon disappeared without a trace and never appeared again. They also did not explain what Hua Wenfeng meant when she said she was worse than an animal. Others may not have understood the meaning behind this comment, but it was impossible for Hua Wenfeng not to understand, especially when she heard Father Mo read it to her. Her eyebrows suddenly furrowed as a sense of fear emerged in her heart. There are all kinds of people in this world. I can't believe someone would casually fabricate the truth and believe it. Hua Wenfeng looked at her phone a few times. Deep down, she cared about the comments. But at the same time, she was confused. No one should have known about this incident. So why? This was impossible. Absolutely impossible. Below the post, a lot of people followed suit and asked the person that revealed the truth. They wanted to know what else they were hiding. However, the person that revealed the truth never appeared again. It wasn't until a few hours later that they reappeared again. However, they left a message that made everyone even more confused. I will take back what belongs to me. Seeing this message, Hua Wenfeng was so shocked that she immediately threw her phone away. What's wrong? Father Mo asked. Don't get angry over a small thing like this. Hua Wenfeng turned around and lay on the hospital bed. At this moment, this was the only thing that appeared in her mind. I will take back what belongs to me. Could it be that the person was still alive, and was still alive? That was impossible. Hua Wenfeng was determined to find out who was behind all this. Of course, the words of the person that revealed the truth made Tongning's situation a lot better. On the other hand, Hua Wenfeng's reputation became a source of jealousy and disgust for the people in Beijing. From now on, don't look for reporters for no good reason. Your son is the big boss of the entertainment industry. Did you think he would let you do as you please? Stop dreaming. Doing this will only hurt ourselves. Hua Wenfeng was well aware of this. Originally, the annoying Tongning was her biggest target. But now that the person behind this had appeared, in that case, Tongning would no longer be worth mentioning. Of course, she had never seen how ruthless Tongning could be. Chapter 623. But this PR incident had nothing to do with Hai Rue at all. Hai Rue did not do anything, but the internet had already cleared Tongning's name. Although it appeared to be the work of a fan, Fang Yu still paid attention to the entire incident. Father Mo obviously did not expect that the commotion he caused would be resolved with a simple sentence. The couple must have thought that Mo Ting had arranged everything. However, Mo Ting was well aware that this incident had nothing to do with Hai Rue. Fang Yu found the account that posted the post. He did not believe in groundless rumors. Since this wasn't a PR move by Hai Rue, there was no reason for anyone else to help Tongning. President Mo, this is the post posted by the person that cleared Tongning's name. Have a look. Fang Yu handed the phone to Mo Ting. Mo Ting lifted his head, but did not take the phone. He simply replied, I've already seen it. What do you think? I think the person that posted this must be an old friend of Auntie's. Perhaps there is an unimaginable secret hidden behind this post. It's obvious that the old friend is targeting Auntie. On the surface, it seems like they're trying to clear Tongning's name. But look at the last sentence. What do they mean by, I will take back what belongs to me? This is obviously a declaration of war. I've already asked someone to investigate the person that posted this, Mo Ting replied calmly. So, you've been suspecting this all along. Fang Yu chuckled and placed his phone back in his pocket. That's right, if he was able to discover something so obvious, there's no way Mo Ting would remain indifferent. What if we find out the truth, and it doesn't turn out to be a good thing? In that case, they will pay the price for their actions. It was such a simple logic. What was so hard to understand? I hope it's just a prank, Fang Yu sighed. Otherwise, this matter will be very troublesome. After all, it involved Hua Wenfeng, Mo Ting's mother. Meanwhile, Tongning also saw the post, and her heart was filled with questions. If there was nothing wrong with Hua Wenfeng, then there was no point in looking into the post. There was a high chance that it was a prank or a method by her fans to divert the public's attention. But Hua Wenfeng wasn't innocent. So, thinking about the content of the post, Tongning and Mo Ting both wanted to investigate the matter further, even if it turned out to be a prank in the end. The reason Qin Xingyan moved into the apartment Zhehao arranged for her was to temper her wild and unruly personality. However, on the first day, Qin Xingyan suffered from insomnia. This was because she had a serious problem. She couldn't recognize her bed. And Zhehao didn't allow her to leave, so she gave the old woman a phone call. The woman tried to persuade her, but it was useless. She could only send the pillows and bedding she used daily to the apartment building. Seeing this, Zhehao had no choice but to personally head downstairs to welcome them. However, on the way, the middle-aged woman couldn't help but ask, "Why is Tongning always on the news? The neighbors have been talking about her recently." "It's fine, it's all settled. This time, it's all thanks to a kind-hearted person." And Zhehao replied casually. He had no idea that the kind-hearted man was right in front of him. However, this incident is quite strange, so President Mo is also investigating it. "In that case, has he found anything?" the middle-aged woman asked. Hearing this urgent question, Zhehao was a little surprised. He then laughed. "It's not that easy. We haven't found anything yet. But the two elders from the Mo family are quite angry." This time, the middle-aged woman did not say a word. As she looked into Zhehao's eyes, her expression became a little mysterious. Although Zhehao did not think too much about it, he did not completely ignore it. Because of this, I'm sure the two elders from the Mo family will not let the matter rest. I wonder how they will make things difficult for Tongning. I think Tongning is a quiet child. She's quite nice. She even helped me out the other night. You're right. That's how Tongning is like. She never has any bad intentions towards others. It's just that the public has too many misunderstandings about her. After speaking, Zhehao placed Qin Xingyan's luggage in front of her room door and turned to the middle-aged woman. "Auntie, please go home first. Don't let Qin Xingyan see you. Otherwise, this apartment may not be able to hold her for long. In that case, I'll leave Xiaoxing in your care." Afterwards, Zhehao watched as the middle-aged woman left. However, he did not think of her as a kind-hearted person. He simply felt that she cared a lot about Tongning and Mo Ting. However, as the middle-aged woman walked downstairs, she turned around and took one last glance at the apartment. Her eyes were filled with reluctance. But from now on, she was going to cling on to Hua Wenfeng. At the very least, she was going to return all the pain she had suffered over the years. Hua Wenfeng was also looking for the person behind the post. However, even Mo Ting couldn't find anything, so she couldn't find anything. This further proved that the person behind the post wasn't an ordinary fan, but a professional. As a result, Hua Wenfeng's fear deepened. After all, this discovery made it impossible for her to feel at ease. At the same time, she had no idea that she had been exposed in front of Mo Ting. After all, Mo Ting's people were also paying attention to this matter. She had no idea that she was like a mantis, unaware of the oriole behind. However, just as everyone thought the incident would develop to the next step, the person behind the post suddenly disappeared without a trace. Over the next few days, the search rankings changed a few times, but she was nowhere to be seen. Was she simply playing a prank? Even Hua Wenfeng began to relax as she returned to her work at the research institute. After all, whether it was finding the culprit or dealing with Tongning, neither was an easy task. Meanwhile, Tongning continued to study the script for Concubine Ning. For some reason, she had a feeling that something was wrong, Ting, after investigating for so long, we still haven't found anything. I think it's because Mom hasn't caused any trouble. Inside the study room, Ting was signing some documents. After hearing Tongning's words, he couldn't help but ask, "Are you trying to set a trap for such a small matter?" "Don't tell me you're not curious." Tongning smiled as she leaned against Ting. "Mom has already asked me about your investigation." "It's not a secret," Ting replied. "Plus, according to Mom's personality, do you think I would set a trap for her? Right now, she hates me to the core. Just wait and see. In less than 3 days, she will definitely come up with something new," Tongning said confidently. Chapter 6:24. I don't care what tricks she has up her sleeves. All I know is, you are my limit. Ting's voice was deep and firm. However, Tongning had never doubted this. From the moment she married Ting had never given her a chance to go back on her word. Hyatt Regency. Seaside Villa. Late at night, a noisy day finally came to an end. As for Hua Wenfeng, she cut her arm and put on a show. The only thing she gained from this was Father Mo's unwavering trust and endless hatred towards Tongning. Because the person that Tongning hurt wasn't just anyone, it was his wife. Most importantly, Tongning was his and Hua Wenfeng's daughter-in-law. How could a woman with a history of misdeeds like Tongning be worthy of his son? Ting must have been possessed. How could he marry a woman like this? How could a woman from the entertainment industry be trusted? Hua Wenfeng knew her words had a deep impact on Father Mo, so she continued to fan the flames. You have a point. Plus, Tongning has previously been with someone else and relied on Ting to get to where she is today. Who knows how many men she found behind Ting's back. Every time you mention this, I get angry. Father Mo stood with his hands behind his back as he sneered at Hua Wenfeng. This morning, when I went to look for Tongning, I realized she didn't know how to avoid arousing suspicion. She was discussing business with a man at home with her pregnant belly. What business? Only Ting would believe her nonsense. What kind of decent woman would greet a single man at home behind her husband's back? Every word the couple said seemed to have branded Tongning as a dissolute woman from the bottom of their hearts. Perhaps it was because of years of prejudice. Father Mo was deeply influenced by Hua Wenfeng and did not have a good impression of the entertainment industry. However, all these years, Ting had never been under his control and never listened to his teachings. So, he had no choice but to turn a blind eye to it. Even when Ting announced that he had married a model, he did not have much of a reaction. He thought, with Ting's power and decisiveness in the entertainment industry, no one would be able to lie to him. But only now did he realize that Tongning wasn't a simple woman. He possessed an unfathomable shrewdness. If Ting wants to go into the entertainment industry, I can't force him. After all, everyone has their own ambitions. Plus, he has inherited his grandfather's legacy. But this Tongning, I can't tolerate her hurting you. Hua Wenfeng looked down at her injured arm and said in an aggrieved tone, Hubby, we are just ordinary people. We can't escape the rules of the entertainment industry. Only you would believe that I was injured by Tongning. Thinking about the way Hua Wenfeng had been treated, Father Mo's anger intensified. That actress shouldn't think that she can stay by Ting's side safely. Did she think that just because the entertainment industry is in Ting's hands, she would have a backing that would never collapse? Since she likes to use the rules of the entertainment industry to solve problems, fine. These old bones of mine will play with her properly. After hearing this, a smile appeared on Hua Wenfeng's face. She wanted to deepen the relationship between Father Mo and Ting. Only then would she be safe. Alright, go to sleep. After handing everything over to her husband, Hua Wenfeng felt a lot more relaxed. She now needed to put in more effort to find the hidden mastermind. Over the next 2 days, all of a sudden, a rumor began to spread within the industry. Tongning was pretending to be pregnant and waiting to give birth, but she was secretly cheating on a man behind Ting's back. Cheating. The culprit was smart. They didn't expose it to the public, nor did they let the sensitive paparazzi spread the rumor. Instead, they slowly spread the rumor within the industry. Their ultimate goal was to infiltrate the entire entertainment industry. What kind of people were in the industry? They were people that would do anything to survive. They had the clearest minds and had the ability to speak in human language when they saw someone and speak in a ghost language when they saw a ghost. In order not to offend Ting, they didn't say anything. This meant these people weren't as easy to control as the netizens. They were well aware of the rules of the entertainment industry. It didn't take long before Long Jia heard about the rumor. So, she immediately gave Tongning a phone call. Everyone in the industry is saying that you cheated during your pregnancy. What's going on? Where did the rumor come from? Tongning's circle had always been small. If there was no rumor from the outside, and it was only spread within the industry, she would never have found out about it. Rumors like this are just rumors, Tongning replied calmly. After all, rumors about me being infertile, my child being unhealthy, and a few other random rumors have already spread. Cheating, it is indeed a rumor. Tongning, you can ignore this matter, but people will always laugh at boss for being cheated on. Hearing the last few words, Tongning froze for a moment as her eyes turned cold. Do you know where the rumor came from? I'm not sure. It suddenly spread throughout the industry, Long Jia explained. It's because it concerns boss's dignity, so no one dared to spread the rumor. They only discussed it within the industry. Okay, I understand. Tongning put down her script and finally returned to her senses. She simply wanted to keep a low profile and never wanted to be enemies with anyone. It was such a simple request, but even the heavens refused to grant it to her. Everyone knew that she and Zeheo were on good terms. Now that a rumor like this had spread, it would be extremely awkward between the two of them, whether or not they met in the future. With this thought, Tongning finally pulled out her phone and gave Ting a phone call. Ting. I've heard about the rumor that's been spreading in the industry. You don't need to take this matter to heart. Ting did not seem affected at all. If he doesn't take it to heart, would he believe it? His next step would be to say that the child in my stomach may not be yours. Tongning revealed a slight smile. When that happens, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? This matter concerns your dignity. I won't allow anyone in the industry to laugh at you and look down on you. You are still the same Ting, the big boss of the entertainment industry. No one can find an excuse to bully you. After hearing Tongning's words, Ting understood that she was protective of him. So he smiled. So, what do you plan to do? You need to know that no matter what you do, no one will believe you. They simply believe that rumors aren't baseless. Chapter 6:25. You tolerated me because I was pregnant, but it was all for the sake of our child's birth. In reality, the couple were well aware of who spread the news. But Ting was about to become a father, so he didn't want to go too far and cause the child to hear bad things. Otherwise, he had never known what it meant to tolerate. Above all, this matter was difficult to clear up. Even if he used a trick to prove himself, people in the industry would only respond half-heartedly. But behind his back, they would still take the opportunity to laugh at him. To be able to use such a trick was ruthless. And Zeheo heard about the news from all over the place. Although the source did not mention him by name, he was the only single man that was allowed to enter Hyatt Regency like this. People in the industry directly referred to him as a director, and he had no way of refuting them. After all, the people that were discussing this matter were all people with high statuses. In fact, they were people that exceeded a newcomer like him. Because of this, the first thing Zeheo did was give Ting a phone call. Tongning and I are innocent. I know, Ting replied calmly. I trust my wife, and I trust her feelings for me. Plus, only the blind people in the industry would believe that she would give up on me and choose you. And Zeheo. No matter how harsh Ting's words were, at this moment, Zeheo was satisfied with Ting's attitude. However, when he saw Tongning in the future, he was bound to feel a little awkward. What's with that sour face? Did you run into some trouble? Chun Xingyan asked as she saw Nzaheo staring blankly into his phone after finishing her practice. Nzaheo originally wanted to bury the matter deep in his heart, but apart from Chun Xingyan, there was no one else he could confide in. So, he explained the entire situation to Chun Xingyan. After hearing everything, Chun Xingyan looked at Nzaheo and couldn't help but slap her thighs and laugh. "You bastard, to think you would have such a days. I said it because I wanted someone to share the burden with, not because I wanted you to treat it as a joke." And Nzaheo's tone became a little heavier. In reality, he had overestimated Chun Xingyan. Why did he say it out loud to embarrass himself? What kind of advice could a 19-year-old child and such a willful person come up with? Seeing that he was really angry, Chun Xingyan quickly reached out and pulled him back. "You're a big man. How can you be so petty? This might be a joke to you, but to me, this concerns the reputation of a good friend." "Okay, I got it. I'll admit my mistake, okay?" Chun Xingyan quickly raised her hands in surrender. "But, speaking of which, the person behind this is quite evil. Isn't it obvious that they want her to get a divorce?" And Nzaheo looked at Chun Xingyan like he was looking at an idiot. "Don't look at me like that. Actually, it's because you weren't paying attention that people took advantage of you." In reality, Chun Xingyan was right. Perhaps the main problem was that he had treated Tongning too casually. "Do you know how to comfort people? What kind of comfort do you need? I say, you're worrying too much. Since it's nothing, what are you afraid of? The culprit likes to see you panicking like this. Aren't you playing right into their hands?" Chun Xingyan rolled her eyes at Nzaheo. "Tongning has a high EQ, let alone President Mo. All the important resources in the entertainment industry are in his hands. If you create trouble for yourself like this, aren't you looking down on their intelligence?" After hearing this, Nzaheo's mood seemed to improve a lot. "If you're so worried about Tongning, you should be worried about her first. But if I find the person that came up with such a dirty trick, I will definitely beat him up until he's crippled." For Chun Xingyan, if there was something in this world that couldn't be solved with one beating, then he would do it twice. "You have an audition tomorrow. Get ready." After saying this, Nzaheo turned to leave. However, just as he was about to leave, he noticed an injury on Chun Xingyan's arm. So, he immediately grabbed onto it and asked, "How did this happen?" "It's from practice," Chun Xingyan casually replied. "It doesn't look like a new injury." After speaking, Nzaheo turned his head and looked at Chun Xingyan's motorcycle. With a gentle touch, the wheel fell off. "Did you go racing? That's part of the job of a substitute. Then why don't you remove your own leg? What's the problem with the wheel?" Nzaheo pushed Chun Xingyan away. "With your unorthodox methods, you will eventually drag me down with you. Then, why don't you sign someone else? I've always been a part of the underworld." Nzaheo. As soon as Nzaheo left, Chun Xingyan received a phone call from the old woman. Perhaps even Chun Xingyan hadn't noticed that her mother had been calling her more and more often lately. Apart from asking if she was getting used to the lifestyle, she would also ask about the entertainment industry. Chun Xingyan originally didn't have much to say, but when she thought about Nzaheo's problem, she casually mentioned it. As soon as the old woman heard it was related to Tongning, her expression darkened. Does that woman really can't stand being lonely? What? Chun Xingyan didn't understand what the old woman meant. It's fine. Since Mr. N is in a bad mood, you should comfort him and stop causing trouble. Chun Xingyan rolled her eyes at the empty air. I'm hanging up. After Chun Xingyan hung up the phone, the old woman lowered her right hand. For some reason, Hua Wenfeng had once again challenged her bottom line. What benefit did Hua Wenfeng get from framing Tongning like this? From the looks of it, she would need to make a move to hide her identity. However, the situation this time was a lot trickier than before. After all, she had no way of coming into contact with the higher-ups of the entertainment industry. If she revealed the truth, it wouldn't do Tongning any good. So, what should she do to prove Tongning and Nzaheo's innocence? It seemed She needed to find a way to get close to Hua Wenfeng. However, the situation developed faster than everyone expected. Just as no one was able to come up with a plan, a new version of the rumor began to spread. Just as Tongning expected, rumors began to spread that the child in Tongning's stomach wasn't Mo Ting's, and the first person to react was actually Father Mo. It didn't take long before Mo Ting received a phone call. In a questioning tone, he asked, "I heard rumors that Tongning's child has nothing to do with you. What's going on?" Mo Ting's eyes were cold as he looked at his handsome face. "Where did the rumors come from?" "You don't need to know. I just want to know if this rumor is true." "Father, don't tell me this rumor originated from you?" Mo Ting asked. Chapter 626. What nonsense are you talking about? Father, you and I both know what's going on. Since you've already done it, why should you stay out of it? There was no anger or coldness in Mo Ting's voice. In fact, it sounded a little casual. Whether it was anger or coldness, it meant he still had expectations for the woman. But Mo Ting played it down, but it proved one thing. From now on, I will no longer have a father, and you will no longer have a son. If this is how you treat your son, then I think we are more suited to be strangers, or even enemies. After hearing this, Father Mo froze. He never imagined that Mo Ting would go to such extremes. For the sake of Tongning, he was willing to cut ties with him. "Are you serious?" Father Mo asked angrily. "Do I look like I'm joking to you? From today onwards, you will witness my methods. I will show you how many people you have implicated by hurting Tongning and me." Mo Ting's voice began to sound fierce and domineering. Mo Ting's voice began to take on a fierce and domineering tone. "I forgot to tell you, I've never been a lover." Before Father Mo understood what Mo Ting meant, Mo Ting had already hung up the phone. Originally, he wanted to use this opportunity to advise Mo Ting that he shouldn't keep a woman like Tongning. But who would have thought? Mo Ting already knew from the start who was behind this despicable method. Method? What method? Was he going to swallow him whole? Father Mo did not take Mo Ting's words to heart. But the next morning, the industry suddenly stopped gossiping about Tongning and the child. Because, the previous night, a relatively popular artist had casually discussed the child in Tongning's stomach. But Mo Ting never expected to find out. Even if it was another artist, Mo Ting immediately instructed Fang Yu to deal with it. First, the artist was banned, then his entire family lost their jobs. In just one night, he was sent overseas and never allowed to return to Beijing again. Not only that, Mo Ting also sent out a warning through his own channels: "If you want to laugh at me, then do it in front of me. If you want to continue talking about the child in Tongning's stomach, I will immediately make sure you die a horrible death." His words were firm. Most of the people in the circle knew what was going to happen. Only a few of them had a wishful thinking. In just one short night, they ended up in an extremely miserable state. That night, Hai Rui dealt with 3 artists in a row. Each artist had a different status, but they all liked to talk dirty. One had been sent overseas, another had his debts exposed by Hai Rui, causing his creditors to break his legs overnight. Lastly, the last one was arrested after they found marijuana in his house and was currently sitting at the police station. With the help of their agencies, these people originally had a bright future ahead of them. But because they criticized Tongning, they became fallen stars. What was even more frightening was that everyone in the industry knew who was the mastermind behind this incident. But they could only protect themselves. After all, Mo Ting was serious this time, so no one dared to joke around. So, rumors of Tongning cheating and the child in her stomach quickly disappeared without a trace. It was as if they had never happened. The management company was afraid of offending people, so it was better to avoid trouble. As for the artists, they were even more afraid to speak up. After all, their management companies were afraid of Mo Ting. Now that things had gotten to this point, the truth was no longer important. The most important thing was, they all knew how ruthless Mo Ting's methods were. It didn't take long before news of the incident reached Father Mo's ears. As the mastermind, Father Mo's face turned red as soon as he heard that Ting had used such ruthless methods. He had never imagined that Ting would be so ruthless. This Ting is crazy. Father Mo once again used a bamboo basket to draw water, so he couldn't help but feel annoyed. Especially after seeing Ting use such ruthless methods, he finally understood what Ting meant when he said he would implicate a lot of people. From a certain perspective, Ting did not care about his own family. Even if Ting forcefully suppresses the news, everyone will still suspect the child in Tongning's stomach, Hua Wenfeng said as she grabbed onto Father Mo's arm. Plus, hubby, you need to know that our target is only Tongning. Ting is our son. We can't let him get hurt. They couldn't let him get hurt. How could Hua Wenfeng say something like this? Ting had already been injured by the time news of the incident started to spread. Of course, Hua Wenfeng was taking advantage of the fact that Tongning would never be able to clear her name, so she tried to convince Father Mo to do so. But she had no idea how good Tongning was at solving problems. Out of all the problems that she had encountered, she didn't know what it meant to be unsolvable. So, Ting forcefully suppressed the news from the outside and allowed Tongning to retaliate. Among the 3 people that Ting had dealt with, one of them was locked up at the police station for hiding marijuana. So, Tongning asked Feng Yu to find someone to bail her out. On the surface, it was to help her, but in reality, she simply wanted to repay what she owed Tongning. Afterwards, Feng Yu brought the woman to the CEO's office. However, the person that saw her was not Ting, but Tongning, who was sitting on the sofa reading her script. She was, after all, the woman that had spoken ill of Tongning. So, as soon as she saw Tongning, she couldn't help but feel a little awkward. Actually, I called you here today because I hope you can cooperate with me on something, but you want the police to let me go. Tongning put down the book in her hands and lifted her head to look at the woman coldly. Be clear, I'm not negotiating with you. The woman was obviously intimidated by the aura in Tongning's eyes, so she lowered her head timidly. What do you want me to do? Redeem my innocence. The woman was only in her early 20s. After hearing Tongning's words, she looked at her in disbelief. How am I supposed to redeem your innocence in a matter like this? Did you think that anyone would believe me if I went out and told them about it? Tongning smiled as she returned her gaze to the script in her hands. Yes, you want to go out and tell them about it, but not like this. The woman looked at Tongning suspiciously. She couldn't understand the woman in front of her and wondered what kind of terrifying plan she had in her mind. Redeem her innocence? If she told others about her innocence, no matter how she tried to prove it, no one would believe her. So, how is she going to redeem her innocence? The woman obviously didn't believe that Tongning could actually do it. So, apart from fear, she also felt a little excited. She also wanted to know what Tongning was going to rely on to resolve this crisis. If she could really solve this problem, then she would have nothing but respect for Tongning. Chapter 6:27. In reality, there were a lot of things that appeared tricky on the surface. That was why the bystanders became numb and assumed that Tongning had no choice but to accept her bad luck. But for someone that had been through hundreds of battles, it didn't take long before the industry no longer heard any news about Tongning's child. But within 2 days, there was a new piece of news. The news claimed that Tongning had indeed cheated and that she had evidence in her hands. Evidence of an affair. Even so, they did not dare to spread the news because they were afraid of Ting's revenge. Plus, everyone felt that the person that spread the news was too brave. How dare they challenge Ting's authority in public? But where did the source of the news come from? No one knew. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen to this person. At the same time, Hai Rui seemed to be planning to investigate the identity of the person that spread the news. But this time, someone else was involved. Without a doubt, this person was Hua Wenfeng. Because she wanted to obtain evidence of Tongning's affair, she tried her best to find the person that spread the news. if she was able to obtain evidence of Tongning's affair. Then, not only in front of Ting, Tongning would no longer have a foothold in Beijing. Hua Wenfeng even used a private investigator to get ahead of Ting. Of course, this time, her wish came true. The person that spread the news was a friend of one of the 3 artists that Ting had previously dealt with. At most, she could be considered as part of the industry. Of course, Hua Wenfeng was still cautious. After all, she couldn't let the public know that she had done so much behind Tongning's back. So, she first asked for the person's phone number and hesitated for a long time before she made the call. At first, the person did not pick up. But, as soon as she heard Hua Wenfeng's intention, she scoffed. Actually, my friend told me about this. She previously had a small role in SWH and saw Zhehao and Tongning being intimate. She was the one that was caught for possession of marijuana. Previously, she didn't think they had a special relationship. After all, everyone in the industry knows that they have a good relationship. So, my friend didn't think much of it. It wasn't until news of Zhehao and Tongning cheating that she realized she had obtained something amazing. So, if you want evidence, you should ask her. After all, I'm afraid of Hai Rui's revenge. You can try calling her. The other party explained, I spread it because I was drunk. I didn't expect it to cause such a big commotion. I'm going abroad to hide. It turned out Tongning and Zhehao were really messing around behind Ting's back. Hearing this, Hua Wenfeng tried her best to entice him, but not only did the woman refuse to back down, she even questioned Hua Wenfeng. Right now, everyone in the industry is trying their best to avoid Tongning's matters, yet you still insist on getting involved. How much do you hate Tongning to do this? Very much. Is it convenient for you to tell me who you are? Hua Wenfeng wasn't stupid enough to reveal her identity. So, after a brief exchange of words, she hung up the phone and contacted the young artist that Ting had previously dealt with. However, the woman had just been bailed out. As soon as she heard Hua Wenfeng's request, she immediately rejected. I'm sorry, I don't dare to provoke Tongning and Ting. I don't have any evidence. But before your friend left the country, she sent me a photo. Hua Wenfeng had offered a lot of benefits in exchange for the photo. So, she obviously wanted to confirm the authenticity of the photo. In the photo, there was indeed only Tongning and another man. In fact, they were acting very intimately with their arms around each other's waists. The man's eyes had been censored, but anyone with a discerning eye could tell that it was Zhehao. I really didn't. Please, don't come looking for me. Hua Wenfeng did not give up. She still wanted a clear version of the photo. So, she offered a very tempting offer. As long as you give me the photo, I can agree to any condition. Sorry, I still won't give it to you. The woman's attitude was firm. She had no intention of giving in. Don't think about getting something for nothing. What if I give you the photo and Hai Rui comes looking for me again? Wouldn't I be wronged? Perhaps she was too afraid of Ting's revenge, so she was extremely cautious. Hua Wenfeng thought for a moment and finally suggested, how about this? Let's meet in person. Meet in person? The woman laughed in disbelief and asked, why do you want the photo in my hand? It's not like you can spread it around. Aren't you afraid of Hai Rui's revenge? I really don't understand how much you hate Tongning. You simply need to tell me, are you going to sell it or not? $30 million, and I'll give you the photo. I want to leave Beijing. After all, I can't stay here any longer. The woman thought for a moment and finally relented. $30 million. Hua Wenfeng was shocked by this number, so she did not respond for quite some time. Seeing Hua Wenfeng's hesitation, the woman immediately said, you think it's expensive? I won't force you. It's perfect. I don't need to take this risk anymore. Although I do want money, I want my life more. Plus, to prevent others from coming looking for me, I think it's best that I destroy this photo. I don't want to bring trouble to myself. After speaking, the woman was about to hang up the phone, but Hua Wenfeng stopped her. Let's set a time and a place. Let me think about it first, I'll send it to you. After hanging up the phone, Hua Wenfeng held onto her phone and paced back and forth in the living room. She was nervous. It wasn't until a few minutes later that the woman sent her an address did she finally calm down. Everything she did was to make Tongning disappear from Mo Ting's side. She wanted to see if Mo Ting would still be able to hold himself back when the evidence was placed in front of him, and he saw the photo of Tongning and Zaheo. Time: 2 days later. Location: Miro Hotel. At this time, Tongning received a message on her phone. The fish has taken the bait. Everything is going according to plan. Sometimes, there was a method called reverse exploitation. Afterwards, Tongning handed her phone to Mo Ting. Can you confirm that the person who made the phone call was Ms. Hua? Mo Ting then showed Tongning a video. In the video, Hua Wenfeng bought a few phones and a few SIM cards on her own. One of the phones used to make phone calls to small artists was bought by Hua Wenfeng. Why didn't she hire a private investigator? Because she knew that the more she hired a private investigator, the more evidence they would have against her. For a matter like this, she could do it herself, and it would be foolproof. Why would she hire someone else? I can understand why Ms. Hua hates me. But what about your father? Tongning asked in seriousness. Doesn't he know that this will hurt you? Chapter 6:28. I've never been an obedient person, but my appearance has intensified the conflict. They want to pull me away from you at all costs so that you will wake up. Tongning's lips curved upwards gently as she looked down at her stomach and shook her head. It doesn't look good. I thought I was the only one who liked to hurt myself while hurting the enemy. After speaking, the couple fell silent. After quite some time, Tongning continued, Tang Xian is treating me this way. At least we have a mutual benefit. But your parents, are they willing to go this far and are even willing to fight to the death? Is that necessary? No matter how big the conflict is, no matter how much you don't like me, do you need to go around slandering your daughter-in-law or even your own grandson? I'm sorry. Mo Ting hugged Tongning tighter. The Tang family has already caused you enough trouble. What have you to be sorry for? Her eyes were filled with heartache. Actually, I once dreamed of a beautiful life as a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. I thought if Madame Hua didn't dote on me, she would at least love you. But you are Mo Ting. In my heart, and in many people's hearts, you are omnipotent. As for your parents, they shouldn't have behaved like commoners. The things that I've done are completely unbefitting of my status. After hearing this, Mo Ting lifted her up from the sofa and carried her towards the bedroom. There are some things I'm still investigating. In reality, even Mo Ting didn't believe it himself. How confident are you? Tongning knew what Mo Ting was investigating, so she asked out of the blue. 9 points. It turned out, in Mo Ting's heart, the Hua Wenfeng in front of him was a complete fake. Actually, there's a simpler way. Things are not as simple as you think. Mo Ting pushed open the bedroom door and placed Tongning on the bed. I need to get to the bottom of this. If you don't give me an answer soon, I'll make my move at the Moreau Hotel in 2 days. I won't let go of anyone who wants to break us up or hurt our baby, even if it's your mother. She could lose her reputation and face even more serious consequences. Did I stop you? After speaking, Mo Ting minded his own business and headed into the walk-in closet. By the time he came out, he was dressed in white home clothes. Mo Ting had always known that Tongning knew what she was doing. And in this world, the only person who understood his difficulties and could empathize with his pain was Tongning. Because she didn't want to throw this dilemma to him. And when dealing with a matter like this, the worst thing to do was to bring up the relationship between mother and son, mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. After all, when Hua Wenfeng did what she did, she had completely forgotten about them. Sorry, it was fine to hurt her, but to hurt Mo Ting and the child, she would never tolerate it. Meanwhile, Hua Wenfeng was dreaming about Tongning being abandoned by Mo Ting. As long as she could get her hands on evidence of Tongning cheating. In reality, the reason why she wanted Tongning and Mo Ting to split up was simple. She knew Tongning wasn't easy to deal with and needed to be eliminated. Otherwise, the risk of her identity being exposed would increase. As for Father Imo, he had been used by her from the start. As the fake Hua Wenfeng, what kind of feelings could she have for Imo Ting? Imo Ting wasn't even her own son, let alone her daughter-in-law. Actually, from the beginning, she had already considered putting on an act in front of Tongning. But the prerequisite was that Tongning acted like a normal daughter-in-law without any brains. After all, Imo Ting didn't lack women. Even without Tongning, he was still the mesmerizing Imo Ting. Women were always throwing themselves at him. So why did he have to stick around Tongning? Over the next 2 days, a woman wearing a hat and a face mask kept walking around the entrance of Hyatt Regency. This attracted the attention of the security guards, so they approached and asked, "What are you doing here? Why are you walking around here all day?" As soon as the woman heard the security guard's question, she began to stutter. "Actually, I am here to look for Mrs. Imo. I have something to ask of her." "Which Mrs. Imo are you looking for? Do you know where this place is?" the security guard asked as he pointed to the luxurious entrance of Hyatt Regency. "I suggest you leave. The person you are looking for is not here."
Oh. Okay.
The old woman glanced into the estate and noticed a black car driving out of the front gate. She subconsciously looked over and saw Father Imo and Hua Wenfeng inside. They were about to leave the house. 1,000 emotions rushed through the woman's heart as her eyes immediately turned red. She had once married Imo Linyuan because he was a peaceful man and loved his wife dearly. But after so many years, this man couldn't even tell the difference between a real wife and a fake one. He even allowed a slut to bully his son and daughter-in-law. Just thinking about this, her heart could not calm down. As the car drove past the two, the security guard immediately saluted the people in the car. He then bent down and said to Hua Wenfeng, "Mrs. Imo, someone is looking for you." Hua Wenfeng looked at the woman through the thick windshield with a confused expression. "I don't know her. If she is a paparazzi or a reporter, throw her out." "Did you hear that? Mrs. Imo said she doesn't know you." Hua Wenfeng did not look at the woman seriously, so she did not suspect anything. However, the security guard raised his hand at the woman. "I'm sorry. I'm not looking for this Mrs. Imo. I'm looking for someone else," the woman explained. "I'm looking for Tongning. Tongning knows me. If you don't believe me, give her a phone call." "If she says she doesn't know me, I will immediately leave and won't bother you again. Otherwise, if you offend me, you won't end up well either." The security guard felt that the woman's words made sense, so he nodded his head. Then, "Wait here." After speaking, the security guard entered the villa and personally knocked on Tongning and Imo Ting's door. The person to open the door was Tongning. "Mrs. Imo, there is a mysterious woman wrapped in a scarf and wearing a face mask looking for you. May I ask if you know her? If you don't, I will immediately send her away." After hearing this, Tongning was a little surprised. Of course, she didn't know this woman. Send her away. But just as she was about to close the door, she suddenly remembered the woman she saw at Hu Jingjing's birthday party. So, she called out to the security guard, "I know her. In that case, should I bring her in?" The security guard asked. The woman was the mother of one of Enzaheo's artists. So, why would she come looking for him? "Ask her to wait in the courtyard downstairs. I'll be right down." Chapter 629. Okay, Mrs. Imo Ting had already left for Hairue, so Tongning was all alone at home. If she were to bring the woman home, and she had ulterior motives, it would be hard for a pregnant woman to deal with her. So, Tongning arranged for them to meet in the garden. At a time like this, Tongning didn't have to help. But she wasn't a snobbish person. If a normal person needed her help, she wouldn't reject them. Especially since she had Zaheo. When Tongning was ruthless, she was always dealing with her enemies. She would never point her knife at an innocent person. This was what the old woman liked about Tongning. Soon, the old woman arrived at the garden in the heart of the villa. Meanwhile, Tongning arrived in the garden wearing a jacket. As soon as the two women saw each other, Tongning looked at the old woman suspiciously. Of course, at such a close distance, it was impossible for her not to notice something was wrong. Is this a burn? Yes, it's been many years. The old woman subconsciously tightened her mask. Tongning smiled and did not force her. You are the mother of the artist that Zaheo signed, right? We met once that night. But why did you come looking for me? Xiaoxing is working as a stunt double for Mr. N. She is usually training and isn't at home. I heard about the rumors between you and Mr. N from Xiaoxing, so I'm afraid. Are you afraid that it will affect your daughter's future? Tongning seemed to have seen through the old woman's motive as she smiled gently. You don't need to worry. This matter won't affect your daughter. I know you are innocent. I have a way to prove it. After hearing this, Tongning smiled even wider. Annie, you are not from the entertainment industry. You don't need to get involved. Especially since this matter has nothing to do with your daughter, you don't need to put in so much effort. I know you are friends with Mr. N, and I'm a woman. If I keep clinging to Mr. N, it will negatively affect him and Xiaoxing. So, I can only look for you. It seemed reasonable to put it that way. I don't have any ulterior motives. I simply want to help. Actually, Tongning could understand why the old woman did this. She was trying to protect her daughter's future. I can handle this matter. Don't worry, Zaheo's reputation will not be tarnished, and your daughter will not be harmed in any way. Mrs. Mo, you are, after all, a woman and pregnant. The people around you must have their own families, so they can't protect you all the time. So, can I make a bold suggestion? I want to come to Hyatt Regency to take care of you. I can take care of all the household chores and have experience taking care of children. I can take good care of you. But I'm not used to being taken care of by others. Apart from being worried, Tongning was also speaking the truth. After all, she still didn't know this woman's background. It wouldn't be wrong to be careful. But now that you're in trouble, I can come up with a plan to help you solve the problem, as long as you don't mind my current appearance. The woman's eyes were filled with sincerity. It had been a long time since Tongning had seen such genuine anxiousness. She couldn't understand why the woman would come to her and care so much about her. I really don't need it, Tongning replied apologetically. Don't worry, I will tell Zaheo to take good care of your daughter. I won't let her suffer the slightest bit. Hayes, forget it, the woman sighed. If you change your mind and need someone to take care of you, let me know. I will always be ready. Thank you, Tongning nodded her head in seriousness. After all, there weren't many people that were as passionate and kind as her. You're welcome. You're a good actress with no airs. Tongning watched as the woman left. It was a normal thing to do, but for some reason, she felt a sense of worry in her heart. Afterwards, she told Mo Ting, I don't know why, but rejecting her makes me feel a little bad. What is she after? Mo Ting's voice sounded a little hollow. She wants a good future for her daughter. Actually, if her family background is clean and she's flexible, I can accept her suggestion, Mo Ting said. At the very least, you are now 7 months pregnant. I'm no longer comfortable leaving you alone at home. Let me first do a background check on her. That's right. You are 7 months pregnant. Okay, Tongning replied. Afterwards, Tongning told Zaheo about the situation. And Zaheo was suddenly curious, so he went to look for Chen Xingyan in private. Chen Xingyan was preparing for an interview. She was dressed in a black tank top and had no makeup on, but her martial arts moves were smooth. The little devil was capable. She simply needed to overcome the psychological barrier of not being able to face the camera. However, it didn't take long before Chen Xingyan disappeared from sight. Just as Zaheo looked around for her, she suddenly dropped down from above and asked, Why are you looking for me? Can't you make your entrance a little simpler? And Zaheo asked as he furrowed his brows. Chen Xingyan leaped into the air and landed on the ground. She then sat down cross-legged. Is it simple enough now? If you have something to say, then say it. Did you know that your mother has approached Tongning to be a maid? My mother? Chen Xingyan turned around and pointed to herself in surprise. Why would she do that? She usually lets me wash her underwear and socks. Why does she have to wash someone else's socks as soon as I leave? Is your family lacking monies? And Zaheo asked with his arms crossed. I owe you $2 million. Is that considered lacking? Chun Xingyan humphed. Can your mother be trusted? If it's possible, I would like her to take care of Tongning. And Zaheo actually trusted the old woman. It was an indescribable feeling that the old woman would never hurt Tongning and Mo Ting. Why do I feel like my mother isn't reliable? Instead of taking care of her own daughter, she went to be someone else's maid. And Zaheo. She's doing this for you, the little devil. She wants your future to be guaranteed. That's why she wants to infiltrate the enemy's ranks. With this thought, Chen Xingyan nodded her head and calmed down. She should have done this a long time ago, and Zaheo. But I still find it strange. No matter how I think about it, why does it have to be Tongning? Chen Xingyan didn't understand. Why can't someone else do it? Do you even need to think about it? Your mother is amazing. She directly approached the biggest backer in the entertainment industry, yet you're still not satisfied. And Zaheo rolled his eyes. He was already in his 30s, but recently, he couldn't control his temper because of this brat. Chapter 630. Get ready. We are about to head to the audition. You still haven't told me what kind of film it is. Chun Xingyan asked as she followed behind in Zaheo. You'll know when you get there. And Zaheo remained mysterious as he smiled seductively. Actually, when Zaheo wasn't boring, he had a mature charm. However, he always pretended to be serious. Sometimes, Chun Xingyan even wondered how cool this man would be if he knew how to smoke and race. Yet, he chose to live a serious life.
Boring.
It didn't take long before Zaheo brought Chun Xingyan to the audition venue. It was a relatively famous training ground in Beijing. The reason why the audition was held here was because they were looking for the best action actors. Chun Xingyan immediately noticed the name of the production team, The Savage Wars. It was an American sci-fi film. Above all, they weren't looking for a stunt double. They were looking for an action actor that had to appear on screen. Chun Xingyan immediately wanted to run away, but Zaheo locked her in the car. Why are you running? I know about this film. They don't hire stunt doubles. Don't forget our initial promise. If it was Tongning and she was given the same opportunity, if she was also afraid of appearing on screen, she would think of all sorts of ways to overcome the obstacles in her heart. Because she knows, those that run away will never see the light of day. Firstly, I'm not Tongning. Secondly, I don't like to be lectured, Chun Xingyan replied arrogantly. I hate it when people compare me to others. I like to be free and do what I like to do. Only the capable have the right to say no. And Zaheo pulled out a contract and threw it at Chun Xingyan. Look at the contract yourself. Here is the 6th rule. Chun Xingyan immediately flipped it open. It clearly stated that during the contract, she could not go against her manager's reasonable arrangements. Are you trying to trick me? You can get out of the car right now, but first, place the $20 million penalty fee in front of me, and Zaheo instructed. I refuse to believe that I can't tame your arrogant personality. As soon as Chun Xingyan saw Zaheo was serious and that he was even more arrogant than she was, she immediately became obedient. To put it simply, she was the type of person that bullied the weak and feared the strong. She especially liked people that could suppress her. Let me make this clear first. If you screw up, don't blame me. Although Chun Xingyan still didn't obey Zaheo, at least she didn't resist. And Zaheo got out of the car and led Chun Xingyan into the training grounds. The training grounds were already filled with experts who had heard of Chun Xingyan's fame and were all ready to go. Chun Xingyan continued to act sloppily. Especially as she watched others audition, her eyes were filled with disdain. There are still 10 people in front. After that, it will be your turn. Chun Xingyan said. And Chun Xingyan did not follow. In reality, Chen Xingyan really wanted to sneak away. But as soon as she entered the bathroom, she overheard the discussions of the people around her. Chun, and Tuovan. The one who won the Fei Tian Best New Director Award. Are you trying to say that he cheated on you with Tongning? One of the men spoke in a softer voice, but Chen Xingyan could still hear it clearly. Sure. Do you want Hai Rui to take revenge on you? Everyone is worried about their own safety, but Zhao doesn't seem to care. He even brought an artist here for an audition. Did you see that young lady? She's 20 years old at most. She's not bad-looking, but you can tell that she's not a proper action actress. Do you even need to ask? Where can she find any real talent at her age? Hearing this, Chen Xingyan pushed open the cubicle door and swaggered over to the sink. As she washed her hands, she lifted her head and glared at the two gossiping women. She was used to being shameless, but of course, she couldn't afford to be taken advantage of. It was bad enough that they were talking about Zhao, but how dare they talk about her? Nonsense. I don't have any real talent.
Do you?
Chen Xingyan asked straightforwardly. The two women felt a little awkward after being caught gossiping behind someone's back. So, they subconsciously looked elsewhere. I have my eyes on the two of you. Don't let me find out your names. Otherwise, I will be the first to report you to Hai Rui. As soon as the two women heard that Chen Xingyan was going to report to Hai Rui, they immediately apologized. Sorry, we were just being rude. Please forgive us. Chen Xingyan glanced at the two women and scoffed before she walked out of the bathroom without saying a word. As the people in front were too useless, the interviews usually took a minute, and some took less than 10 seconds. Just as it was about to be Chen Xingyan's turn, where was she? And Zhao lifted his left hand and looked at his watch. Did Chen Xingyan actually need 10 minutes to go to the bathroom? Did the little rascal really retreat and run away? Not long after, the interviewer called Chen Xingyan's name. It seemed someone had adjusted the speed and moved her closer to the front. But where was he supposed to find her? And Zhao took a deep breath. His voice was filled with disappointment. Just as he stood up to leave, Chen Xingyan walked past him. I'll go in first. I thought you ran away. Even if I wanted to run away, I should have beaten them up first. Chen Xingyan had actually returned to the lobby a while ago. Coincidentally, she saw the two women getting ready for their interview and assumed they were from the same group. And Zhao thought she was enlightened, so he sat back down. But who would have thought? After entering the room, Chen Xingyan was originally supposed to wait for a notice. But Chen Xingyan directly approached the interviewer and said in broken English, I can fight with them and act as the villain. As soon as the interviewer heard Chen Xingyan's suggestion, he felt it was quite interesting and agreed. So, Chen Xingyan got what she wanted, the chance to beat someone up. Back when she was an extra at the film base, she loved to beat people up and then fix their broken bones. Now that she had come across two women with foul mouths, she was going to beat them to death. So, she didn't care about the setting. All she cared about was beating them up. She forgot that there were cameras all around her as she walked up to them and punched them. The women sensed her seriousness, so they had no choice but to fight with all their might. So, out of all the actors present, the fight between the three women was the most realistic. Although Chen Xingyan was fighting one against two, her movements were smooth and fluid. Her strength was shocking. The interviewers couldn't help but praise, perfect. But Chen Xingyan didn't care. She directly beat the woman up until she had a nosebleed. She then smiled innocently under the woman's hateful gaze. I'm sorry. My fists hold grudges.
You.
Chen Xingyan rolled her eyes at the two women before she swaggered out of the training hall. Seeing her like this, and Zhao couldn't help but ask, do you have a grudge against them? It's none of your business. Chen Xingyan still remembered Zhao, so she didn't want to talk to him. Wait for further notice. And Zhao's lips curved upwards. It turned out the little devil's mental illness wasn't completely incurable. Chapter 631. After Mo Ting agreed to let the woman enter Hyatt Regency, he immediately instructed Fang Yu to do a background check on the woman. It turned out the woman's surname was Bai, and her first name was Li Hua. She was once from a wealthy family, but her family fell on hard times. It was also at that time that her family caught fire and her appearance was ruined. However, she met her savior, Shen Boyo. Over time, they fell in love and eventually got married and gave birth to Qin Xingyan. After finding out about the woman's background, Tongning gave her a phone call. Of course, as Lu Che was still overseas, Mo Ting left the matter of making arrangements for the woman in Hyatt Regency to Long Jia. As soon as Long Jia arrived at Hyatt Regency and saw the woman, she couldn't help but ask why she kept her face covered. The woman couldn't avoid it, so she had no choice but to tell her the truth. I was burned many years ago. That's why I'm like this. Does Tongning know? Long Jia was only concerned about whether she would scare Tongning. Yes, she knows. Bai Lihua nodded. Don't worry, I will take good care of her. That better be the case. Since Mo Ting had given his approval, Long Jia had no reason to doubt her character. Of course, with Tongning's abilities, she wouldn't be able to do anything to her under Tongning's nose. It didn't take long before the two women arrived at Mo Ting and Tongning's home. At this time, Tongning was practicing the script for Concubine Ning. Since your surname is Bai, I will call you Annie Bai from now on. Long Jia will arrange everything else for you, Tongning said politely as she put down her script. Meanwhile, seeing Tongning like this, Bai Lihua felt extremely comfortable. At home, Tongning appeared even more calm and graceful. She was as calm as a chrysanthemum flower. In fact, she appeared extraordinary and aloof from worldly affairs. Okay, Mrs. Mo, you can just call me Tongning. She had no intention of treating Bai Lihua like a servant. Let's go, I'll show you around. Bai Lihua nodded her head at Long Jia. Just as she was about to turn around, she suddenly thought of something and asked, have you thought of a way to deal with Hua Wenfeng? How could something like this be a problem for our Tongning? Seeing that Tongning did not respond, Long Jia answered Bai Lihua's question. That's good. If you need anything from me, please let me know, Bai Lihua said sincerely. Tongning nodded her head and allowed Long Jia to show Bai Lihua around while she immersed herself in her script. Has Hua Wenfeng always treated Tongning so badly? Bai Lihua asked as she suppressed the anger in her heart while familiarizing herself with the surroundings. He hasn't stopped since the first day he came back. Long Jia replied in disdain. Her hatred for Tongning is ridiculous. You've seen for yourself how much trouble she's caused Tongning since her return. You don't know why. Who knows? She slandered Tongning for hurting her, accused Tongning of having an affair with someone else, and said the child in her stomach was unhealthy. I've never seen such a disgusting mother-in-law. After hearing this, Bai Lihua clenched her fists. It doesn't matter. Just return them to her one by one in the future. After hearing Bai Lihua's words, Long Jia froze. Was she imagining things? She had a feeling that the woman in front of her hated Hua Wenfeng more than anyone else. But, seeing that Bai Lihua's expression was normal, Tongning dismissed her worries. She was probably overthinking things. Bai Lihua was just a normal commoner. How could she possibly come into contact with someone like Hua Wenfeng? By the way, can Miss Long tell me where Hua Wenfeng is staying in a moment? That way, I can be mentally prepared. Long Jia thought for a moment and felt the woman was quite thorough. So, she nodded her head. Okay, I'll tell you everything in a moment. She was finally here. Hua Wenfeng, your retribution shouldn't be too far away. In reality, Tongning was not used to Bai Lihua's new arrival at Hyatt Regency. After all, when Mo Ting wasn't around, she was the only one moving around in the big house. Now that Bai Lihua was here, she had to give it a try before she felt at ease. So, she deliberately placed her scripts all over the place and pretended to fall asleep on the sofa. It didn't take long before Bai Lihua entered the living room. Seeing that Tongning had fallen asleep, Bai Lihua retrieved a thin blanket from the guest room and placed it over her. She also placed the scripts in a hidden drawer on the coffee table because she knew they were extremely important. Tongning felt she had gone a little overboard. She was certain that Bai Lihua had entered Hyatt Regency with a motive, but Bai Lihua had no ill intentions toward her. So, Tongning slowly relaxed. Soon, Mo Ting returned home. Bai Lihua had already prepared a sumptuous meal. Taking into consideration that Tongning was pregnant, the meal was well-balanced and nutritious. Seeing this, Tongning couldn't help but smile at Mo Ting. Now that Annie Bai is here, you'll have more time to rest. But I don't feel tired at all. Mo Ting unbuttoned his shirt and placed his jacket on the sofa. Only after he hugged Tongning would he feel at ease. Hurry and eat. You still have a tough battle to fight tomorrow, so you need to rest early, Tongning said with a hidden meaning. I've already arranged everything for you. Mo Ting carried Tongning to the dining table and carefully placed her down. At this time, Bai Lihua was standing to one side. Of course, she did not dare to look at the couple sitting at the table because she was afraid of revealing her emotions. When it came to Tongning, she could control herself, but when it came to Mo Ting, he was her son. How could she hold back her tears? Annie Bai, you should get some rest. There's nothing else you need to do here. After hearing Tongning's words, Bai Lihua quickly replied, Don't worry, I'll go tidy up the kitchen. I won't disturb the two of you. That's not what I meant. Auntie Bai, Mo Ting, and I are simple people. We don't have many rules at home. Relax. I know you are a good person, so I will do my best to take care of you. After speaking, Bai Lihua left the dining room and returned to her guest room. At this time, she had to think of a way to cooperate with Tongning and make Hua Wenfeng pay the price. Not only did Hua Wenfeng bully her, she even bullied her son, daughter-in-law, and future grandchild. She deserved to die. Of course, as a vengeful person, Tongning had no intention of going easy on Hua Wenfeng. Everything would depend on the exciting show tomorrow. Would Hua Wenfeng win, or would Tongning be confident in her victory? The dining table had already returned to its usual warmth and tranquility, but at this time, the food in Mo Ting's mouth had an indescribable taste. What's wrong? Tongning asked. The taste isn't bad. It doesn't lose to you or me. Mo Ting used these words to hide the emotions in his heart. Chapter 632. Hua Wenfeng's deal at Moreau Hotel was scheduled to take place at 2 p.m., but Hua Wenfeng arrived half an hour early. Her motive was to check the hotel's facilities to see if she had been followed or had been secretly recorded. But, of course, there was none. In order to destroy Tongning, Hua Wenfeng was willing to pay any price. Even if she had to spend $30 million, she did not feel the slightest bit of heartache. Inside the hotel, Tongning's previous commercial from when she was a model was still on display. As soon as Hua Wenfeng saw it, her lips curved into a contemptuous smile. She knew she was about to destroy everything Tongning had worked so hard for. Although it was going to be a good show, Tongning had no intention of leaving the house. So, she decided to stay at home and watch Hua Wenfeng's arrogance turn into a joke. Tongning, everything is ready, Feng Yu said over the phone. We have already connected to the biggest screen in the city. We can start the live broadcast at any time. I'm looking forward to a good show. After speaking, Tongning hung up the phone, put away her script, and picked up the remote control beside her. 2 p.m., the woman that Hua Wenfeng had arranged to meet up with soon appeared. However, she was covered up in disguise. As soon as Hua Wenfeng saw her, she couldn't help but laugh. You don't need to be so nervous. Hai Rue is already investigating the evidence. The friend that I accidentally revealed has also gone into hiding overseas. So, I am currently trembling in fear and not knowing what to do. No matter what you are worried about, I can help you. Hua Wenfeng removed her sunglasses to show her respect and sincerity. Aren't you Tongning's mother-in-law? Are you Hua Wenfeng? Did you buy evidence of Tongning cheating to show to President Mo? The woman was obviously shocked as she immediately stood up. If I knew you were the one buying it, I wouldn't have come. Sit down first and let me finish. Hua Wenfeng grabbed the woman and pulled her to sit down. To be honest, I don't like Tongning either. So, I can't possibly go to Mo Ting and expose you. I don't believe you, unless you can give me some evidence. After speaking, the woman pulled out her phone and pressed the record button. Are you brave enough to let me ask you a few questions? If you really answer me, then I can give you the photo. Hua Wenfeng looked deeply at the young artist in front of her. She could tell that the woman before her was easily frightened. After considering her options, she nodded her head and shrugged her shoulders. Go ahead and ask him. If you can't answer me, then there is no need for us to make a deal. After all, if word of this gets out, it will definitely cause irreversible consequences, and Hai Rui will never let me off the hook. If you're not willing to pay the price, then there's no need for me to take the risk, right? Obviously, the man was being cautious because of Hua Wenfeng's half-hearted attitude. Seeing how determined the woman was, Hua Wenfeng finally said with certainty, "Ask me anything and I will answer honestly. Firstly, you tried so hard to find me to get photos of Tongning having an affair. You couldn't possibly have done it just to verify the authenticity of the affair, right?" Hua Wenfeng thought for a moment and replied, "I want to show it to my son. I want him to know what kind of person Tongning is. After all, Tongning really cheated on me. I didn't wrongly accuse her." "Do you hate Tongning so much because Tongning hurt you?" The woman looked at Hua Wenfeng suspiciously. "I can't understand why you and Tongning have such a deep grudge against each other. Why are you willing to pay any price to find evidence of her cheating? Isn't Tongning your daughter-in-law?" Hua Wenfeng thought for a few seconds and suddenly realized something wasn't right. "Why do you want to know about this?" "I'm sorry, Mrs. Mo. If I didn't have something that could protect me, I would never have given you the photos. I've been bitten too many times, so I have to be careful." The woman looked at Hua Wenfeng with disdain. "I'm sure you know about the industry and President Mo's capabilities. If he found out that I slandered his wife, he would never let me off easy. How have you slandered Tongning?" "It's a fact that Tongning cheated," Hua Wenfeng emphasized. "Mrs. Mo, you sure are smart. You always change the topic. Please answer my question seriously. Otherwise, I will never give you the photos today." Hua Wenfeng froze for a moment before she let out a laugh. "It's because Tongning is unfilial and even hurt me. I'm sure you all know about this." "Mrs. Mo, let's not beat around the bush. Everyone in the industry knows that Tongning doesn't hurt anyone." The woman obviously did not believe Hua Wenfeng. "If you have something to say, then just say it. I'm just a small artist that has lost my reputation. What else do I want? Knowing too much isn't good for you." After hearing this, the woman immediately stood up. "I didn't take such a big risk to make a deal with you just to listen to your nonsense. Since we can't come to an agreement, I think it's better for me to stay alive." "You're spouting nonsense. It's not worth anything to me. How do I know you won't betray me?" Hua Wenfeng sneered. "I gave you the photos. Betraying you is equivalent to betraying myself. But you're different. If you don't want to cooperate, then forget it. There's no need to waste everyone's time." After speaking, the woman tried to stand up. But Hua Wenfeng took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in her heart, and dragged the woman back. "I cut my arm myself." Hearing this answer, the woman sat back down in front of Hua Wenfeng in satisfaction. "Tongning didn't hurt me, because there's no way she could hurt me." "Then, does the rumor of Tongning having an affair have anything to do with you?"
No.
Hua Wenfeng replied firmly. "But it's not like I didn't know about it. Old Mo happened upon Tongning and Zhehao discussing business in the living room that day. Who knew what they were doing so intimately? Of course, old Mo wouldn't let Mo Ting suffer, so he exposed the matter. But he only told a few close friends and kept it within the industry. I never thought you would treat your daughter-in-law like this." The woman's voice contained a slight sense of ridicule. "This has nothing to do with you. All you need to do is give me the photos of Tongning having an affair." Hua Wenfeng was unhappy with the woman's mocking expression, but at this moment, she had a favor to ask. Mo Ting doesn't need a wife like this. He deserves someone better to accompany him. Has Tongning ever wronged you? You're asking too many questions. Hua Wenfeng was a little unhappy. "That's the last question. I don't like her," Hua Wenfeng replied casually. In other words, she didn't do anything wrong. After speaking, The woman put down her phone and deleted the recording right in front of Hua Wenfeng. Chapter 633. Just now, I simply wanted to test you. Since you're willing to tell me the truth, I'm willing to make a deal with you. Seeing this, Hua Wenfeng laughed. Young lady, you sure have a lot of tricks up your sleeve. But in the end, I deleted it. The young artist put down her phone. Seeing this, Hua Wenfeng immediately relaxed. Of course, in a corner that she couldn't see, the small camera on the young artist's body had already captured everything that Hua Wenfeng had said. Even the slightest expression on her face was captured clearly. To be honest, I don't like actors, especially not smart ones. She is my daughter-in-law. Don't you know that Tongning is pregnant with your grandson? Hearing this question, Hua Wenfeng couldn't help but laugh. My son is the big boss of the entertainment industry. Do you think he would worry that no one will give birth to his child? You are quite disgusting, the young woman replied straightforwardly. Although I did something wrong, I know I asked for it. But the way you treated a pregnant woman was quite shameless. All right, enough nonsense. Where's the thing I want? The young woman looked deeply into Hua Wenfeng's eyes before she sent the photo on her phone to Hua Wenfeng. You can have it, but I don't want the money. I don't think I can spend this disgusting amount of money. Good luck. After speaking, the young woman stood up and left. As soon as Hua Wenfeng received the photo, she immediately sent it to Father Imo. So, this is your daughter-in-law. Hua Wenfeng had no idea that everything she said and did in front of the young artist that afternoon was being displayed on the biggest commercial screen in Beijing. Of course, from beginning to end, the video only showed Hua Wenfeng. The young artist was nowhere to be seen, so it protected her from the media's attacks. Now, everyone knew what kind of person Hua Wenfeng was, and how much Tongning had suffered during this period of time. Only Hua Wenfeng was proud that she had obtained a photo of Tongning cheating. Damn, just because she looks down on Tongning, she treated a pregnant woman like this. How shameless, the netizens began to discuss. I wonder who this kind-hearted person is. If it wasn't for her, who knows how much more injustice Tongning would have to endure. It's so pitiful. Hua Wenfeng is the most evil mother-in-law I've ever met. Didn't President Mo's father say that Tongning cheated on him? I never thought that the rich and powerful were so messy. What a great show. I feel this was all planned by Tongning. But, to be fair, Hua Wenfeng was framed and Hua Wenfeng was framed in this way. In an instant, because of the leaked video and Hua Wenfeng's true face, the people of Beijing finally understood the true meaning of a sinister person and how evil they could be. To Hua Wenfeng, the person that sacrificed herself also showed them the photo she sent to Hua Wenfeng. On the huge screen, there was indeed only Tongning and Zhehao in the photo. But those with discerning eyes could immediately tell that something was wrong. This is photoshopped, okay? I have to hand it to Hua Wenfeng. Previously, someone even photoshopped Tongning as his wife. Was Tongning cheating on him too? Mrs. to foam to if I were of Tang I ling to be to my to. Hua Wenfeng had no idea that the weather outside had changed. After speaking to Father Imo, she gave Imo Ting a phone call. Xiao Ting, do you know what photo your father just received? What? Evidence of Tongning cheating. Evidence of Tongning and Zhehao cheating. Hua Wenfeng yelled. Oh, so? So, you should quickly divorce this kind of woman. How can she be my son's wife? Miss Hua, are you referring to this photo? On the other side of the phone, Mo Ting's lips curved upwards as he sent the original photo back. If Tongning's fans were observant enough, they would have noticed that the original man in the photo was Mo Ting. This was a photo of Mo Ting and Tongning. Mo Ting directly sent the original photo back to Hua Wenfeng. After seeing it, Hua Wenfeng was confused. Xiao Ting, it can't be. It's not this photo. This photo is a photo of me and Tongning. Hua Wenfeng froze for a moment. All of a sudden, she didn't understand what Mo Ting meant. Very confused, right? You'll understand everything in a moment. After speaking, Mo Ting hung up the phone. At this time, Hua Wenfeng realized something must have changed, so she immediately left the hotel. But, on her way out, a passerby spotted her and immediately pointed at her. I can't believe this evil woman still dares to appear. A woman's heart is the most vicious. How shameless. I hope my mother-in-law doesn't learn from her. It seemed, all of a sudden, everyone was filled with ridicule and insults towards Hua Wenfeng. In fact, someone even threw an object at Hua Wenfeng. What a jerk. Hua Wenfeng didn't understand what was happening. She wanted to call a taxi and leave. But, as soon as she flagged down a taxi, the driver immediately refused to take her. Why is it you? I won't take you. Call another taxi. Can I ask why?
Why?
Go to Global Square and look at the big screen. I've lived for so long, yet I've come across someone as evil as you. It's quite an eye-opener. After speaking, the driver drove off. Hua Wenfeng's arm was injured, so she couldn't drive herself. But she couldn't get a taxi either, so all she could do was hide. Not long after, the entertainment news appeared online, reporting on Hua Wenfeng's magnificent feat. It was all over the news, and there were even messages popping up. Hua Wenfeng's hands trembled as she watched her name appear on the screen of her phone. A moment later, she realized what had happened. So, this was what happened. Hua Wenfeng's body suddenly went limp as she sat on the cold ground. At this moment, the entire world realized how ugly she was inside. Hua Wenfeng lay on the ground in tears. She finally understood why the passers-by were pointing and gossiping. No, how did this happen? Shame and anger. It was a feeling of shame and anger. Hua Wenfeng was suddenly engulfed by this feeling. Hua Wenfeng lay motionless on the ground. It was Father Mo who found her after walking around the hotel. Wenfeng, get up. Old Mo, take me to Tongning. Hua Wenfeng lifted her head. Her eyes were red and filled with tears. Okay, I'll take you to Tongning right now. Father Mo carried Hua Wenfeng into the car, and the couple headed straight for Hyatt Regency. But at a time like this, what was the point of looking for Tongning? Of course, Tongning had already expected this moment, so she said to Bai Lihua, Annie Bai, in a moment, stay in your room. No matter what happens, don't come out. Chapter 634. Is it because of the incident that was revealed on the big screen in Global Square this afternoon? Bai Lihua asked. Hua Wenfeng will definitely come looking for you. I can't leave you on your own. It's fine. Tongning smiled gently. I've already prepared myself. I won't let her bully me. Even if that's the case, I will still stay here and watch over you. Bai Lihua looked into Tongning's eyes with determination. Tongning looked at Bai Lihua and realized she had a strong desire to protect her. It was a desire that she couldn't resist. So, in the end, Tongning nodded her head. In that case, don't make a sound. Let me handle everything. Where's Mo Ting? Doesn't he know that Hua Wenfeng will come looking for you? Tongning smiled and pointed to the study room upstairs with her chin. He's upstairs. He came back as soon as the incident happened. He's currently looking at some contracts upstairs. That's good. Bai Lihua relaxed. At this time, Mo Ting's voice sounded from upstairs. Annie Bai, go open the door. Bai Lihua was a little confused. She thought Hua Wenfeng had come to Hyatt Regency. But, as soon as she opened the door, she saw Feng Yu entering the living room with 4 bodyguards. He then turned and left. In a moment, if Tongning wants anything, help her get it. Don't tire her out. As her son, it wasn't that he couldn't be present when Hua Wenfeng and Tongning fought. But he knew that Tongning needed to vent her anger. So it was best for him to stay away. As for the bodyguards, they were there to prevent Hua Wenfeng from getting physical. After all, his wife was currently pregnant, so it wasn't appropriate for her to have any physical contact with others. Hua Wenfeng is here to cause trouble. As her husband, shouldn't he step out to express his stance? Bai Lihua didn't understand Mo Ting's actions. If he doesn't show up, that is his attitude. He knows that I have a lot of anger in my heart. If he's around, I won't be able to enjoy myself, Tongning replied straightforwardly. Annie Bai, if there's one person in this world that can understand my soul, then that person is my husband. He knows everything that I want. Okay? At this moment, Bai Lihua still didn't quite understand the meaning behind Tongning's words. So, she could only wait for Hua Wenfeng to appear before she could answer her question. It didn't take long before an anxious knock sounded from the front door. Of course, Tongning didn't need to open the door herself. However, the people in the living room were a little surprised to see Hua Wenfeng barging into the house, because Ms. Hua seemed to be doing things that didn't match her status at all times. Mom, why didn't you tidy up before coming over? Tongning asked calmly.
Tongning.
You're still pretending. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have lost my reputation. Hua Wenfeng wanted to pounce on Tongning, but she was held back by the bodyguard. I am your mother-in-law. How dare you treat me like this?
Tongning.
Were you the one behind the incident outside? Father Mo questioned as he helped Hua Wenfeng up. Yes, it's me. Tongning asked Father Mo calmly. She had never treated the two men as rivals. But so what? Aren't you all very clear? I am vicious and vengeful. You can't assume that just because I am pregnant, I don't have any fighting spirit. Just because I am your daughter-in-law, don't think that I will let you bully me. I'm not a person that likes to be taken advantage of. Tongning said calmly and casually. Today, I simply destroyed Ms. Hua's reputation. If she doesn't admit defeat and wants to continue, I am more than happy to entertain her. Tongning, I hope you and the child in your stomach die a horrible death. Hua Wenfeng cursed as she pointed at Tongning. Take back your filthy hands, Tongning yelled. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. For some reason, perhaps it was because Hua Wenfeng had never seen Tongning like this before, but as soon as she heard Tongning's yell, she couldn't help but tremble. Take a good look at yourself. How are you behaving like a member of the Mo family? First, you slandered your daughter-in-law, then you tried to drive a wedge between us. Now, you've cursed your grandson and used the media to disregard the Mo family's reputation. You can continue to act like this, but don't even think about harming me and our child. Otherwise, the humiliation we have suffered today, tomorrow, I will return it to you 100-fold, 1,000-fold. Let's see who is more ruthless. Today, I can destroy your reputation. Tomorrow, I can make you beg for your life. Tongning, the way you treat your mother-in-law is intolerable, Father Mo stuttered in anger. Father Mo was so angry that he began to stutter. If you dare do anything to hurt Wenfeng again, I won't. I won't let you off. Father, take a good look at the woman in front of you. Is she really your wife? Tongning asked as she pointed to Hua Wenfeng with her chin. What do you mean? Tongning, stop spouting nonsense in front of Xiaoyuan, you cheap actress. As soon as Hua Wenfeng heard Tongning's words, she yelled in self-defense. As long as I, Hua Wenfeng, am alive, I will never acknowledge you as a member of the Mo family. Do I need your approval? Tongning asked. Or, are you so agitated because I said something I shouldn't have? You're being ridiculous. The truth will never be covered up. The world has its own justice. Tongning's words made everyone curious. Afterwards, she said to Father Mo, Father, you should keep your wife in check. When it comes to scheming, she is no match for me with her intellect. I've always been a playful person. If someone wants to risk their life against me, I will be able to hold them off for a while. You can hate me or curse me. I won't lose a single hair. But don't try to fight me. After hearing Tongning's warning, Father Mo wanted to step forward and slap her across the face. Unfortunately, he couldn't do it because Tongning was surrounded by bodyguards. I'm currently pregnant, so I don't want to make a big fuss. I'm giving you guys some face. But if you don't want to control yourself and continue to do ugly things, then I have no choice but to play along. What did Mo Ting say? Father Mo asked angrily. He no longer wanted to listen to Tongning. Did you think Mo Ting would still want to talk to you? Father Emo remained silent for a few seconds before he glanced upstairs. He knew Ting was home, but just like Tongning said, he didn't want to see him and Hua Wenfeng. So, Father Emo swallowed his anger and prepared to leave with Hua Wenfeng. But Hua Wenfeng suddenly broke free from Father Mo's embrace and approached Tongning. Were you trying to tell me that I'm a fake and that I'm not Ting's mother? You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.